Chapter 1075. Mingyu pouted at Qin Ning and said with a smile, "You can't recite it, but this girl will definitely be able to. Otherwise, wouldn't you be slapping your own face?" Qing Feng did not smile as he said with a cold face, "If this girl can't recite it, then I'm sorry. I'll have to trouble this girl to leave behind a pair of eyeballs. My master's medical records cannot be leaked out." Of the two of them, one was openly mocking and the other was secretly stabbing. Zhui Feng and Xiao Ru's hearts were filled with anger, but thinking of Qin Ning's orders, no one dared to say anything. Although Zhui Feng had seen Qin Ning's ability to read steals from horseback, this time she was going to recite a medical book that she didn't understand at all. Could she really recite it word for word? Although Qing Feng and Mingyu kept saying that if she recited it wrong, they would dig out her eyes, but with Zhui Feng here, was it that easy to dig out his master's eyes? Regarding this, Zhui Feng was not worried at all. "Alright, then I'll start reciting." Qin Ning calmly began to recite in a calm manner. "My medical path has been flourishing for a long time. Examining the 5 viscera and 6 bowels, the blood vessels, the complexion of the blood, the complexion of the world, the person's life, the spirit changes, and the path of the needle." Her recitation of the first few sentences of the general outline was not bad at all. Although Mingyu and Qing Feng were surprised, they did not think much of it. They thought that the first page had at least a few hundred words and she had only recited a few dozen words. The further she went, the harder it would be to recite. The two of them had a deep understanding of this. A wise person must adapt to the 4 seasons, adjust to the heat and cold, live in peace with joy and anger, control yin and yang, adjust the hardness and softness. Like this, evil will not be born and you will live a long life. Qin Ning did not stop. Her voice was clear and beautiful. It was like a small bead hitting a piece of jade, very pleasing to the ear. Mingyu and Qing Feng blinked and found that she had already recited most of the contents of the first page. Moreover, she had recited it word for word. Their eyes popped out and their mouths opened wide, almost dropping their chins to the ground. Impossible! How was it possible for her to memorize so much content after only reciting it once? Qin Ning did not pay attention to the stunned expressions of the two people. She continued to recite. Anger causes the qi to flow, vomiting blood, eating causes the qi to flow, causing the qi to flow. Happiness causes the qi to flow, the qi to flow, the qi to flow, causing the qi to flow. The grieving heart is anxious, the lung is like a cloth leaf, the liangjiao is blocked, the camp and wei are not dispersed, the heat is in the middle, the qi dissipates. The more she read, the more fluent she became. The more she recited, the more admiration she felt towards the hemp-clothed youth's medical cultivation became. Unknowingly, she had already recited to the 4th page in one breath. Ning, he, Chen, a Ming, Ning, a little girl. And. This girl, a person. Chen, she too, and the two of them could not believe it even if they were beaten to death, but this kind of incredible thing had happened right in front of their eyes. Their mouths were wide enough to swallow a toad, but Qin Ning was still reciting it like flowing water. Chapter 1076. This girl couldn't have been sent by Master's enemy to steal secrets, right? Mingyu's mind suddenly flashed with this thought. He did not dare doubt Qin Ning's photographic memory at all and he believed his junior brother's words. This was the girl's first time coming to the Miracle Physician Valley and she had nothing to do with his junior brother. But because of this, he became more afraid the more he thought about it. This girl was very smart, she had a photographic memory. She had only been in the Miracle Physician Valley for a short half a day and she had already read 2 of his master's secret books. If he let her out of the valley, it would be the same as spreading his master's medical skills. This could not be allowed. His mind turned and he decided that no matter what, He could not let this girl leave the Miracle Physician Valley. Qing Feng, Mingyu, invite this girl in. A low and clear voice suddenly came from inside the grass hut. It was the voice of the hemp-clothed youth. Chen Ning stopped reciting. Her eyes sparkled and her lips curled up, revealing a faint smile. She had spent so much effort just to wait for this moment. Yes, master. Mingyu and Qing Feng looked at each other. They turned around to open the bamboo curtain and said to Chen Ning, Miss, my master has invited you. Chen Ning took a breath. With a wave of her long sleeves, she walked into the grass hut. Xiaoru and Jue Feng prepared to follow, but Mingyu and Qing Feng raised their hands to stop them. They coldly said, my master only wants to see that girl, please wait. Jue Feng raised his brows. Xiaoru put her hands on her waist and was about to explode in anger when they heard Chen Ning's voice coming from the grass hut. Wait for me outside. Don't move or say anything. The two of them could only agree. Jue Feng's ears perked up as he listened to the movements in the grass hut. He was prepared to charge in to save the girl if there was even the slightest movement. Chen Ning was not worried that the hemp-clothed youth would harm her at all. She had been thinking about how to convince this youth to come to the capital city with her to save the girl. Even now, she had not thought of a good method. But as long as this hemp-clothed youth was willing to see her and give her a chance to speak, she would be able to understand him a bit more. Then she would be able to find his weakness and move him. There was an oil lamp lit in the grass hut, making it dim. She walked in and saw that the youth was still sitting on the chair, not moving at all. His handsome and clear face was flickering in and out of the light, and a pair of faint eyes were staring at her without blinking. He was observing her, just like she was observing him. Their gazes collided in the air, and neither of them looked away. Chen Ning looked at his studying eyes and revealed a faint smile. Miss, you are not here to see a doctor. The youth in linen clothes went straight to the point. I am not. Chen Ning nodded. You're not sick, the youth in hemp clothing said again, his sharp eyes scanning her face. I'm not sick. Chen Ning nodded. You've been watching me treat my illness from outside the door since noon. What's your purpose? Don't tell me you want to take me as your master. I don't accept female disciples. The youth frowned slightly. He felt that he couldn't see through the girl in front of him. Chapter 1077. I'm not here to ask you to be my master. Chen Ning gave a gentle smile and sat down in front of him. She sat face to face with him. The dim light from the oil lamp shined on her face, making her eyes shine even brighter. It was filled with the glow of wisdom as it sparkled. The hemp-clothed youth found himself attracted by her bright eyes. He stared at her in a daze for a while before his pale face suddenly turned red. He was both embarrassed and annoyed. What do you want to do here? If you don't give me a clear explanation, don't even think about taking half a step out of my Miracle Doctor Valley. His tone was not friendly and his eyes suddenly became sharp. Chen Ning did not even have time to speak before she heard two caw-caw sounds. Two black ropes appeared out of nowhere and like snakes, they suddenly wrapped around her wrists. Following that, two more black ropes wrapped around her ankles, trapping her in the chair, making her unable to move. During this time, the hemp-clothed youth had been sitting in the chair the entire time. His right hand had only lightly moved the armrest without anyone noticing. Chen Ning's eyes lit up as she praised, what a powerful hidden weapon. After transmigrating, this was the first time she had seen a mechanical technique. She couldn't help being surprised and amazed. The hemp-clothed youth stared at the faint smile on her face and the pair of bright eyes. He could not believe his own eyes. Did this girl's guts grow hair? She was trapped by his own mechanism, shouldn't she be panicking and begging for mercy? Why did she look as if nothing had happened and was even able to smile? Do you believe that I only need to move a finger to take your life? the hemp-clothed youth said in a low voice. Chen Ning blinked her eyes and smiled. Of course I believe you. I never thought that not only are you skilled in medicine, you are also skilled in hidden weapons. I really admire you, Although she could not move, her expression was calm as she laughed and talked as if nothing had happened. The hemp-clothed youth was stunned again. Do you think I'm scaring you? He gave a cold snort and his right finger moved slightly. With a schwa sound, another black rope silently flew out and wrapped around her neck. Cool. Chen Ning suddenly found it hard to breathe. She coughed twice and looked up as she complained, Is this how you treat a guest? Mr. Godly Doctor, I have never offended you. You secretly read my medical books, this is a huge taboo. Tell me the truth, who sent you here to steal my medical books? The hemp-clothed youth's eyes turned cold as he narrowed them. Your medical books? Are you talking about those 2 medical books? It's just 2 trivial medical books. The medical books that I remember, I'm afraid you haven't even read them yet, so who would want to steal from you? Chen Ning curled her lips in disdain. The hemp-clothed youth's expression changed. How dare you look down on my medical books? His eyebrows arched upwards. What he was most proud of in his life was not the praise of his medical skills, but the 2 medical books he had written, which could be said to be the culmination of his lifetime of learning. In particular, the acupuncture scripture of Jia and Yi, which contained medical insights and clinical treatments. Even if it could not be said that no one would be able to replicate it in the future, it could be said to be unprecedented. It was his proudest work. Chapter 1078. Who would have thought that when Chen Ning mentioned the medical book that he was most proud of, she would use such a contemptuous tone? How could he not be angry? When did I say that I looked down on your medical book? Although I don't understand medicine, after reading your acupuncture classics, I have gained a lot of benefits. Especially the upper work cure disease, middle work acupuncture fail, lower work acupuncture decline, lower work acupuncture decline, lower work acupuncture decline. These 3 theories can be said to be the golden jade of the medical world. It's a pity that most of the doctors in your book are the lower work acupuncture. They only know how to stick to the rules and treat their head and feet. If they could read Mr.'s masterpiece, it would be a great shame to them. Chen Ning calmly said. The expression of the youth in linen clothes immediately eased up, and a faint smile appeared in his cold and threatening eyes. This was because Chen Ning's words had hit the spot that he was most proud of. After this medical book was finished, he was naturally very proud. He knew that if this book was spread out, it would definitely cause a stir. But since ancient times, medicine had been passed down from generation to generation. He had never thought of passing down the medical book that he had painstakingly written to an outsider, so only his 2 disciples had seen it. This kind of feeling was like walking at night in embroidered clothes, or like a musician who was proficient in playing the zither. He was clearly playing a beautiful piece, but there was no one who understood him to appreciate it. It was really boring. Now that he heard Chen Ning's few words, there weren't many words, but each one of them touched the happiest part of his heart. It was like a hand that had perfectly scratched an itch, making every pore on his body feel incomparably comfortable. Although you don't understand medicine, you do have some knowledge. The hemp-clothed youth's lips slightly curled up and he revealed an almost imperceptible smile. His fingers pulled on the armrest again and the black ropes that were wrapped around Chen Ning's body suddenly retracted, disappearing into an unknown place. Chen Ning rubbed the red marks on her neck and her lips curled into a smile. In this world, there really was a saying, flattery doesn't work. Even a refined expert like the hemp-clothed youth had a change of expression after hearing a few words of praise. She looked at the hemp-clothed youth and saw that his eyes were filled with pride and expectation. His chin was slightly raised as if he was waiting for her to continue praising him. However, Chen Ning did not plan on continuing to praise him. She cleared her throat, and her tones suddenly changed. although the acupuncture scripture written by you, Mr. Godly Doctor, is enough to be passed down to the future generations, I really look down on you for your selfish attitude." She said word by word. "What did you say?" The hemp-clothed youth's pale face instantly turned red. He gritted his teeth and coldly said, "Chen Ning, you're so arrogant." His 5 fingers once again pressed on the mechanism of the armrest. As long as he pressed it lightly, this boastful girl would immediately become a ghost under his hands. "That's because what you've done is indeed contemptible." Chen Ning did not place the linen-clothed youth in her eyes at all and did not care about the killing intent in his eyes at all. She spoke with a calm expression on her face. Chapter 1079. The linen-clothed youth's face turned livid as he coldly said, "The medical inheritance is passed down from sect to sect. My medical books can only be read by my disciples, so what is there to be regretful about?" "That's not true, that's not true." Chen Ning shook her head and said in a serious voice, "Mr. Godly Doctor's words, please forgive me for not agreeing with you. Mr.'s absolute classics mention that working hard to cure illness. This is the realm that every doctor pursues, but it is not the highest realm. Mr. Godly Doctor, in terms of medical skills, you can be considered number 1 in the world, but you cannot be considered a successful medical master. You cannot be considered a true ancient medical master." An ancient medical master. How can one be considered a master of medicine since ancient times? Chen Ning's words made the linen-clothed youth's expression change. It was like a door had suddenly opened in his heart, letting him see the light behind the door. He couldn't help looking forward to it. Now he was completely attracted by Chen Ning's words. The anger in his chest had unknowingly disappeared without a trace as he stared at Chen Ning without blinking. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile. A true medical master does not just need to be an expert, but rather help other doctors become an expert. This is the meaning of being an expert in medicine. Expert in medicine. This was the first time the linen-clothed youth had heard this word and felt it was new. He couldn't help asking, how can one become an expert in medicine? If you are like the current doctors, you will not become an expert in medicine no matter what. Each of them formed their own clan, and each clan and sect had their own inheritance. Everyone was like you, Godly Doctor, who treasured their own medical skills and hid them away. As time passed, how many unique skills could be passed down to the later generations? Mr. Godly Doctor, can you guarantee that your 2 disciples will inherit your superb medical skills? She aggressively stared at the linen-clothed youth. The linen-clothed youth was speechless. He stared at Chen Ning and gasped for breath. He had always thought highly of himself, but he never thought that in this young girl's mouth, he would be nothing. He was not a great doctor, let alone a great master of medicine. He was not convinced, but thinking about the other side's words, they were all reasonable and he could not refute them. Then what kind of person can be called an expert in medicine? The linen-clothed youth gave a cold snort. In my opinion, only someone with a broad mind, a deep vision, and not sticking to the opinions of a sect, can take out the secret recipe passed down by their master and their many years of experience in medicine. Then they can share their knowledge with their peers and learn from the various families, bringing their medical skills to glory. Only then can they be called an expert in medicine and deserve the title of a medical master. Chen Ning enunciated each word as she powerfully spoke. Every word was like a hammer, hammering heavily on the youth's ears. He furrowed his brows and muttered to himself, not rigidly bound by the views of sects, but learning from the strong points of others, carrying forward medical skills, and becoming a master of medical skills. Chen Ning's words made the door in his heart open, bringing his thoughts into a new palace that he had never thought of before. Chapter 1080. The linen-clothed youth did not say anything. His hands were placed on the armrests and his body was slightly leaning forward as he stared right at Chen Ning. His sharp gaze was frozen with a touch of ice, and anyone who looked at him would tremble with fear. But that did not include Chin Ning. She calmly looked into his eyes and smiled at him. Out of the corner of her eye, she glanced at the armrest that his hands were pressing on. Chen Ning knew that although the linen-clothed youth in front of her looked weak and had not moved from the beginning to the end, he could still kill her with a single finger. Moreover, she believed that although this grass hut looked simple and crude, every table, chair, bed and couch, and even every plank on the ground and every wall were all hidden traps and weapons. But she was not afraid. "Young lady, you don't have any medical skills, but your glib tongue is really impressive. What do you mean by promoting medical skills and becoming a medical master? What you say is really moving. Even I was almost moved by you. Hee, do you think that after saying so much, you want me to take out the medical book that I've spent so many years to write and show it to others? Do you think I'm a fool, On?" The linen-clothed youth suddenly opened his mouth. His eyes narrowed and a cold light flashed. It was clear that he was filled with killing intent towards Chen Ning. The air in the room suddenly became a bit colder. Chen Ning calmly said, "Your acupuncture scripture is indeed a classic that can be passed down for generations, but your vision is too small. You don't know that since ancient times, there are as many ancient books that have been passed down in the world. There is no end to learning. The acupuncture scripture can be said to be a pearl in the sea, but how do you know that there are no other pearls in the sea that can compare to your acupuncture scripture? You must be most proud of your acupuncture techniques, but I've read several ancient books on acupuncture and their insights are profound. They are not below your acupuncture scripture." The linen-clothed youth did not get angry and instead smiled. He looked up and gave 2 laughs. "Good, very good. Since Miss is so knowledgeable, then may I ask, Miss, do you dare to recite all the ancient acupuncture books that you have read that are not inferior to my A and B Sutra?" He gave a cold laugh and his voice was filled with contempt and disdain. Even if there really were acupuncture books in this world and this girl had memorized them, wouldn't she treat them like a treasure? How could she recite them to him? He purposely said that to use her words to slap her own face. Why wouldn't I dare? Yes, it's just that I'm young and haven't read many medical books. There are even fewer books on acupuncture. Among them, there are many crude works. There are only 7 or 8 books that can be compared to your Jia Yi Jing. Chen Ning gently tapped her chin with her finger and made a thoughtful expression. 7, 8 books. The linen-clothed youth almost doubted his ears. He couldn't help making a sound. He then closed his mouth and gave a cold snort. Boasting. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the girl in front of him was just boasting. Since he was known as the #1 divine doctor in the world, he had read more than 10,000 medical books in this world. He was most proficient in acupuncture, and he had never missed a book on acupuncture. Chapter 1081. His first and second scriptures had many unique insights. It could be said that it was the first of its kind and was unknown to the world. This was what he was most proud of. You don't need to memorize 7 or 8, just 1 or 2 that are on the same level as my first and second scriptures. The hemp-clothed youth said with a cold smile. Chen Ning pondered and said, "All right, but which one should I memorize first? Is it the copper needle scripture? Or the 14 scriptures? Or the needles reaching the source? How about we memorize the ghost 13 needles first?" The hemp-clothed youth's eyes opened wide as he stared at Chen Ning without blinking. His eyes were filled with disbelief. This was because he had never heard of any of the medical books that Chen Ning had casually mentioned. This girl couldn't be making things up, right? He thought, but it doesn't seem like she's faking it. Could it be that there are acupuncture books that I haven't seen in this world? The hemp-clothed youth's heart began to heat up. Even his fingers that were on the armrest began to tremble. But his face did not change. There was not a single trace of excitement on his face. "I'll memorize the 14 scriptures first," he said with a light expression. What the hell was this 14 scriptures? Why had he never heard of it before? Alright, then I'll memorize a few sections of the 14 scriptures. Chen Ning gave a faint smile and followed his advice. This book mainly talks about the 12 meridians and the governing and conception meridians. It is similar to your first and second scriptures. It mainly talks about the cycle of yin and yang and the convergence of qi points. It is very clear and organized. A doctor's treatment is like a human's treatment of water. Water flows through the earth like blood flows through the human body. The treatment of a doctor, one welcome and one follow, one replenish and one drain, one sweat and one lead. Her words were like flowing water, enunciating each word clearly. The hemp-clothed youth listened with fascination. Chen Ning seemed to understand the sentences she was reciting. She only had a photographic memory and all the medical books she had read were stored in her memory palace. At this time, she could only recite them word by word. But in the ears of the hemp-clothed youth, every single word of this medical exposition was like a pearl, marvelous to the extreme, and it made him feel enlightened. The more he listened, the happier he became. The more excited he became. His pale cheeks began to turn red and his eyes began to shine. Good, well said. Hearing the wonderful parts, he couldn't help slapping the table in praise. Chen Ning gave a gentle smile and stopped reciting. The linen-clothed youth was listening to the most important part, but after waiting for a while and not seeing Chen Ning continue, he couldn't help asking, "Why aren't you reciting? Is there nothing else? After being in your grass hut for so long and talking so much, my mouth is a bit thirsty." Chen Ning's eyes looked around the room as she tried to change the topic. The linen-clothed youth immediately understood and couldn't help glaring at Chen Ning. He knew that this girl was deliberately keeping him in suspense. But the content she recited was full of wonders, making his heart itch unbearably. How could he not continue listening? Chen said, I scriptures, I. The hemp-clothed youth's originally cold and arrogant expression changed, and his tone became very polite. Chapter 1082. Chen Ning saw that there was a cup of clear water on the tray, but there was not the slightest bit of tea color. The linen-clothed youth revealed a proud look. This is my godly Dr. Valley's spring water. It has a sweet fragrance and can cure all diseases if you drink it often. I ask Miss to have a taste. Oh. This kind of magical spring water, you really can't not drink it. Chen Ning revealed a sweet smile. She picked up the cup and took a sip. It was clear in her mouth and she tasted a faint sweetness on the tip of her tongue. She drank it all in one gulp. Miss, you really are bold. Are you not afraid that I'll poison the water? The linen-clothed youth saw that she drank it without any hesitation and was surprised. Chen Ning smiled and said, You are a godly doctor, not a poison doctor. Don't tell me you don't only know how to save people, but you also know how to poison people. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at the other side. The linen-clothed youth's face couldn't help turning a little hot. He avoided her gaze and thought that this girl's eloquence was quite strong. Medicine is 30% poison. I can use medicine to save people, so naturally I can also use medicine to poison people. Does Miss think that I don't have this skill? He did not back down as he replied. This little girl has never dared to underestimate the godly doctor's abilities. Not to mention the fact that your medical skills have caused this little girl to prostrate herself before you, the godly doctor's mechanical skills have also caused me to gasp in amazement. You sat in the chair without moving, yet you were able to control this little girl to the point where she couldn't move at all. Furthermore, the mechanical wooden ox's tea-serving skills have also caused people to gasp in admiration. She said this with a smile. The linen-clothed youth's face couldn't help turning red. He didn't know why, but the other side was clearly praising him, but when he heard it, he felt that the other side was mocking him. However, he couldn't find any evidence in the other side's words, so he could only give a snort. "Miss, why are you being modest? You are just a little girl. If all the little girls in this world were as strong as you, then there would be no way for men to live." He also unknowingly mocked Chen Ning. Chen Ning just gave a gentle smile and did not reply. "Miss, are you not thirsty?" The linen-clothed youth waited for a while, but Chen Ning still did not start reciting, so he couldn't help asking. "Does that mean that you can continue to recite it?" Chen Ning blinked and innocently looked at him. The linen-clothed youth was confused and he secretly gritted his teeth, wondering what kind of trick this girl was playing. Although this was the first time he had met Chen Ning and they had only talked a few words, he could already see that this girl in front of him looked pure and innocent, with a pair of eyes that were as clear as water, but she was hiding a heart full of evil. If he was not careful, he would fall into the other side's trap. So he was always on his guard, paying attention to her every move. "Miss, what else do you need? Just tell me directly." The young man in linen clothes finally couldn't restrain himself and spoke again. Chen Ning blinked again and said 3 words, "I'm hungry." Ning words, Chen clothed youth. Chen Ning to say, she. Ling Ling King Ling, of Ling of Ning, Ling, and said, Ling voice, and said of Ling of tea. "Master, may I ask why you summoned us?" Moon, sect, to say, comma, of sect, of people. The linen-clothed youth said in a soft voice, "Honored guests have come to the valley. Quickly prepare a meal for our guests, do not neglect them." Honored guests. Chapter 1083. Chen Ning smiled as she looked at them with her eyes. Qing Feng and Ming Yu's mouths fell open in shock. The esteemed guest that his master spoke of couldn't possibly be this arrogant and sharp-tongued girl, right? They were hoping that their master would teach this girl a lesson, but who would have thought that their master would treat her as a guest and even prepare a meal for her? This was simply too unbelievable. They had been in the Godly Doctor Valley for so many years and this girl was the first person their master had invited. "Why aren't you going yet?" The linen-clothed youth looked over and saw the two of them standing there like wooden blocks. They stared at Chen Ning in a daze and he couldn't help scolding them. "Yes, master." Ming Yu and Qing Feng felt like they were in a dream as they turned around and walked out. The two of them walked out the door with an expression like they were in a dream. They looked at each other and looked at each other. This one's disciple is a country bumpkin, he has never seen the world before. He has made a fool of himself in front of this miss. The linen-clothed youth's mouth was polite, but his face did not show any embarrassment. Chen Ning said with a serious expression, "Did the Godly Doctor see me smile?" "This." The linen-clothed youth stared at her. He thought that this girl was not willing to suffer even the slightest loss. "Miss, this one's disciple has already gone to prepare a meal. It's boring sitting here, so can this miss recite a few sentences from the 14 scriptures?" Although the linen-clothed youth knew that Chen Ning was purposely keeping him in suspense, he still couldn't hold it in any longer. Who told Chen Ning to stop at a place where he needed to verify his identity? "All right, but I forgot where I was reciting. How about I recite the contents of the Ghost Gate 13 needles again?" Chen Ning's eyes rolled around. The linen-clothed youth gritted his teeth as he stared at her. With her intelligence and good memory, how could she forget? She was clearly deliberately making it hard for him. But even though he knew this, he did not dare offend her. This was because the Ghost Gate 13 needles that she mentioned had piqued his curiosity. He had never heard of the ghastly 13 needles in his life. Could it be a mysterious and lost acupuncture technique? "All right, you can recite whatever you like. This one is all ears," he said without batting an eyelid, but his heart was filled with anticipation. Chen Ning nodded. The Ghost Gate's 13 needles is a secret of the School of Medical Metaphysics. There are a total of 34 incantations that have been passed down in the world. Doctor, please listen carefully. The disease caused by all kinds of evils, there are 13 acupuncture points that must be identified. The first needle is the Ghost Palace, and the second needle is the Ghost Palace. The second needle is the Ghost Palace, and the second needle is the Ghost Palace. The second needle is the Ghost Palace. She said it word by word very slowly. The youth in linen clothes became spirited. He held his breath and concentrated, afraid that he would miss a word. The Song of the Ghastly 13 Needles actually described the technique of using needles, as well as the acupoints and the depth of the needles used. In particular, the acupoints of the ghastly 13 needles, which were known as the ghost needles, were very strange. He studied acupuncture and was very familiar with the acupoints of the human body. There were a total of 720 acupoints in the human body, 108 vital acupoints, 52 single acupoints, 309 double acupoints, and 50 extrameridian acupoints. Chapter 1084. But this Ghost Gate 13 needles took a different path and focused on these 50 extra acupuncture points. This kind of treatment method was something he had never heard of before, but it made his eyes light up. His heart was burning and his palms were sweaty. This Ghost Gate 13 needles song had opened a window in front of him, allowing him to see another world outside. Because of his excitement, his body slightly swayed. Then he immediately warned himself that he could not show the slightest bit of interest. Otherwise this strange girl would stop reciting it and he would not be able to learn the entire set. He was completely focused on listening, but Chen Ning suddenly closed her mouth and stopped reciting. What's next? What's the next line? The linen-clothed youth was not paying attention and blurted it out. Chen Ning blinked and said, Mr. Godly Doctor, what do you think of this Ghost Gate 13 Needles song? The linen-clothed youth's heart trembled as he casually said, Woo, it sounds smooth, but there's nothing special about it. What he said was completely against his will. In reality, every line of the song brightened his eyes. It opened one window after another in front of his eyes, allowing him to see more and more of the new world outside the window. But he could not let this girl see through it. Oh, there's nothing special about it. Chen Ning revealed a look of disappointment. She nodded and said, All right, since Mr. Godly Doctor doesn't like this Ghost Gate 13 Scriptures song, then I won't continue reciting it. What, you won't recite it? The linen-clothed youth almost bit off his tongue in regret. He was so disgusted that he wanted to vomit blood. My God, did you send this girl to deliberately torture people? He stared at Chen Ning, wishing a hand could grow out of his eyes and fiercely scratch her face. In his life, he had never met such a weird and difficult girl to deal with. She was simply the devil's star in his life. The linen-clothed youth placed his hands on the armrests and leaned forward. His eyes stared at Chen Ning without blinking as his chest violently heaved up and down. He felt as if he was going to explode from the suffocation in his chest. Mr. Godly Doctor, I'm not interested in your Ghost Gate 13 Scriptures. How about I recite the bronze needles for you? Perhaps this book will have something you're interested in. What does Mr. Godly Doctor think about it? Chen Ning raised her brows and a pair of crystal-clear eyes looked over the linen-clothed youth's face. Her mouth had a faint smile. No, need, it. These 3 words were squeezed out from the linen-clothed youth's teeth. No. Chen Ning suspiciously knit her brows and looked at him. Mr. Godly Doctor, the things I want to recite are the secrets of the medical families. Other people can't even listen to them, but I'm willing to recite them to Mr. Godly Doctor. Are you sure you don't need to? Her bright eyes glanced at the youth in hemp garments for a moment, causing the youth in hemp garments to grind his teeth again. With great difficulty, he resisted the urge to release the black chain to strangle her to death. I'm sure. There's no need, he said calmly. Only the heavens knew how much strength he used when he said those 3 words. Only the heavens knew how much he wanted to hear her recite. Chapter 1085. The linen-clothed youth was sure that if he continued to listen, he would never be able to climb out of this pit in his life. So he could only endure the pain. No matter how much he wanted to listen, he wouldn't listen. What he regretted now was why he invited her in, why he listened to her talk, and why he didn't kick her out of the valley in the first place. Miss, this mountain residence is simple and crude, there isn't much to entertain a guest with. Your status is high, so please leave. Go back to where you came from. My grass hut is too small, it can't hold a great Buddha like you. The linen-clothed youth waved his sleeve and the empty cup in front of Chin Ning fell to the ground as he spoke in a cold voice. He was actually mercilessly sending the guest off. Chen Ning couldn't help being stunned. It was hard for her to think of this clever plan. This linen-clothed youth had unknowingly fallen into her trap, and as long as she added a bit more strength, he would take the bait. Who would have thought that the fish that had bitten the bait would actually leave the hook? He wanted to chase her away. Was it that easy? Mr. Godly Doctor, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. She pretended to be confused. But in her heart, she was thinking that although this youth looked young, he was very strong. He had actually seen through her intentions and blocked the door ahead of time, not letting her open her mouth. I won't beat around the bush. This one already knows what this miss intentions are. Since you know my 3 rules, then you don't have to say anything. Miss, I don't want to make it hard for you, so you should just leave. If you keep bothering me, then please forgive me for using some extreme methods to deal with you. And your subordinates. The linen-clothed youth's finger moved and the chair he was sitting on turned around. With his back facing Chen Ning, he was not even willing to look at her. Chen Ning bit her lips. Seeing his determined expression, she knew that his words weren't just to scare her and that he really would do what he said. All right, then I'll be leaving. She stood up and without saying another word, she opened the bamboo curtain and walked out. When the linen-clothed youth saw that she was leaving, his heart let out a sigh of relief. It was like he had gotten rid of a large problem. But when he thought of the 2 medical books she had memorized, he felt an unbearable pain in his heart. He couldn't help turning around and opening his mouth, wanting to call her back. No, I definitely can't. This girl has grasped this weakness of mine and wants to lure me into the trap. I must not fall for it. He forcefully clenched his teeth, not letting himself make a sound. Only when he heard Chen Ning's footsteps gradually moving away did he finally relax and lean back in his chair. He felt his back was cold and he had already unknowingly started sweating. Master, the food is ready. We can invite the honored guest to come to eat. The bamboo curtain was lifted, and Ching Feng walked in. When he saw that the seat opposite the teenager in sackcloth was empty, he opened his eyes wide in confusion. The honored guest. Chen, she left. The corner of the youngster's mouth twitched. He thought to himself in relief, fortunately, I left. If that girl had stayed here, he might have changed his mind. Left? Left? Then what about the food prepared by the disciples? Ming Yu was shocked, and scratched her head. She's gone. Can't we eat the food ourselves? The youth in linen clothes couldn't help but glare at Ming Yu. Chapter 1086. Chen Ning did not go too far. She brought Xiao Ru and Zhui Feng to stay in the Godly Physician Valley, looking at the flickering lights in the grass hut. From the open window, she could see that there were 4 people eating in the grass hut. There was a wooden table filled with delicacies and she couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. If that linen-clothed youth had not seen through her thoughts, then she, Xiao Ru, and Shui Feng would still be sitting at the table right now. They would have been able to taste Qing Feng and Ming Yu's cooking and not be standing here eating the wind and dew. Young miss, there are still a few pastries here. Eat them to fill your stomach. Xiao Ru took out pastries from her bag and placed them in front of Chen Ning. Chen Ning nodded and gave the pastries to Xiao Ru and Shui Feng. She also took a piece and slowly chewed it in her mouth. Her mind kept turning with thoughts. Young Miss Chen, how about we follow this subordinate's plan and kidnap this linen-clothed brat? This subordinate sees that Qing Feng and Ming Yu do not know martial arts, so they definitely cannot stop this subordinate. Shui Feng swallowed the pastries in a few bites and said this while wiping his mouth. Kidnapping people is easy, but treating them is hard. Are you confident that if you bring him to the capital, he will definitely treat Xiao Bai? If he would rather die than submit, what are you prepared to do? Chen Ning rolled her eyes at Shui Feng in a bad mood. Shui Feng gritted his teeth and said, "We'll bring him to the capital first. There will be a way for this brat to treat King Jing. In what way? The cow doesn't drink water. Are you prepared to cut off the cow's head and pour water in?" Chen Ning was speechless. If the godly doctor doesn't want to treat him, you're going to kill him? This. Shui Feng scratched his head and was speechless. Young miss, what do we do? Do we just wait here? This servant feels that the godly doctor has a straight face the entire day and hasn't even smiled. He's as cold and hard as a rock, so it must be hard to talk to him. In the grass hut, did he trouble the young miss? Xiao Ru asked with a face of worry. Chen Ning shook her head. She thought back to the itchy expression on the linen-clothed youth's face when she was reciting the medical manual and her lips suddenly curled into a smile. She had already found this youth's weakness. Did he think that she would admit defeat if he kicked her out? Impossible. She wouldn't give up until she reached her goal. In the grass hut, Mingyu looked out the window and saw that Qin Ning and the other two were still standing in the Godly Physician Valley. They were very far away and there were only 3 blurry figures. The faint moonlight shined on them and their shadows were very long. "Master, that girl hasn't left yet," he said after a moment of hesitation. "Pa." The youth's chopsticks hit the back of his hand heavily and said coldly, "Get out if you don't want to eat." Mingyu grimaced in pain, his chopsticks dropped on the table, he picked them up, and silently ate his rice, not daring to make a sound. Qing Feng was more perceptive than him and could already see that his master was not in a good mood, so he noticed that the 3 of them had not left the valley before Mingyu. However, he did not say a word and pretended like he did not see them. "Mingyu, what is this dish?" the youth in linen clothes suddenly asked. Mingyu followed the direction of the hemp-robed youth's chopsticks and replied, "Master, it's the cedar mushroom." Ming Chen Chen Feng, Ti Ming Ming Long Chen, Chen, XT of Go, He Yang Chen Chen, Feng, T of. Without my permission, who allowed you to touch my cedar mushrooms? Chapter 1087. Qing Feng couldn't help but shiver. Sure enough, the next moment, Ming Yu's slightly proud voice rang out. "Master, this mushroom was plucked by Junior Qing Feng. He said that the lady is Master's guest, so we have to treat her with the best food in the valley." Qing Feng glared at Ming Yu. He really wanted to bite off a piece of his flesh. What happened to brothers working together? Did he have to betray them so quickly? Very well, the 2 of you don't have to eat dinner for this month. Also, I'll give you a month to memorize the acupuncture roasted armor and second scripture. If you can't memorize it, you can forget about being a disciple of the Miracle Physician Valley, the teenager said expressionlessly. Ming Yu and Qing Feng's faces fell. They looked at each other. It was fine not eating dinner for a month, but memorizing the acupuncture scripture. And only a month. They couldn't do it even if they didn't sleep. "Master, we know we're wrong. Please forgive us." The two of them put down their chopsticks and knelt in front of the young man. Master, I've memorized less than half of it for a year. You want me to memorize it all in a month? I can't do it. The young man blinked his eyes and suddenly said, that girl from the valley did it today. She's so amazing. She only read it once, but she recited 4 pages in one breath. I think if that girl recited it, she would be able to recite it in 3 days at most. Alas, it's a pity that Master doesn't accept female disciples. I think she's much better than the 2 senior brothers. Mingyu and Qingfeng lowered their heads when they heard this. Not only were they not angry, they even pursed their lips and chuckled to themselves. This young man was really stupid. Why did he have to rub salt in the wound? Master was in a bad mood and vented his anger on them. It was all because of that lady. Yet, this young man kept praising her. Wasn't he adding fuel to Master's anger? Heh heh, little junior brother, very soon you'll be punished together with your senior brothers. Both of them were gloating over the other's misfortune. Bai Yun, have you memorized the Meridian Acupoint book? The young man asked coldly. The young man's mouth was wide open. Master, this disciple is stupid. I haven't memorized it yet. He immediately became dejected. Very good, I'll give you a month too. If you can't memorize it by then, you can leave the Miracle Physician Valley. After the young man finished speaking, his left hand pressed on the armrest of the chair. The chair slid out the door and disappeared in the blink of an eye. There were only 3 people left in the room. They stared at each other as if they had eaten a bitter gourd. In the dead of the night, the Miracle Physician Valley was exceptionally quiet. Even the birds in the trees were sleeping peacefully. There was only a gentle breeze blowing past the treetops, making a slight rustling sound. It was pitch black inside the hut. The 4 people in the valley had already fallen asleep. The young man slept in the hut in the middle and the 3 hut, while the other 3 were sleeping. Chen Ning's group of 3 was still standing there, not leaving. Her eyes shone faintly in the night, like the cold stars in the sky. Xiao Ru's eyelids kept hurting. She gave a yawn and rubbed her eyes. Young miss, are we just going to wait here until dawn? This servant thinks that the divine doctor is asleep. How about we go back to the carriage and sleep? We'll come back tomorrow morning. Chen Ning shook her head and said with a faint smile, I won't sleep. I've already thought of a way. Chapter 1088. Shui Feng was shocked as he looked at Xiao Ru with a look of disdain. Truly a stupid girl, you even have to ask this. Of course it was the method to invite the divine doctor. His ears perked up as he looked at Chen Ning without blinking. His heart was filled with curiosity. Chen Ning gave a soft laugh and rubbed Xiao Ru's hair. She pointed at a large tree to the side. If you're tired, you can lean against that tree and sleep for a bit. Perhaps before the sun even rises, the divine doctor will come with us to the capital city to save them. Ah! Xiao Ru's sleepiness disappeared and her eyes opened wide in disbelief. Young miss, you really thought of a way. This is great, this is great. Quickly tell this servant, what is the method? Is it to burn the divine doctor's house and make it so that they have no place to live and then come with us? Her eyes sparkled and her face was filled with excitement. She clapped her hands and said, let this servant set the fire, this servant loves playing with fire the most. Idiot! Shui Feng couldn't help looking at Xiao Ru with a look of disdain. For such a smart person like his master, how could he use this kind of stupid method? If he could set the fire, would he need to wait until now? Be a good girl and go to sleep for me. You're not allowed to come up with any stupid ideas. This matter will be handled by me and Shui Feng. Chen Ning angrily and amusedly slapped the back of Xiao Ru's head. When will this girl's brain be enlightened? I've wasted so much energy to teach her, but she's still stubborn. Xiaoru unwillingly sat down under the tree. Her eyes blinked as she looked at the young miss, her stomach filled with dissatisfaction. The young miss would rather have Zhui Feng's help than her. How could she be inferior to that thin bamboo pole? Zhui Feng, your qigong is good, bring me to that branch. Chen Ning pointed at a large tree beside the grass hut. That tree was thick enough for two people to wrap their arms around it. The branches were lush and it seemed like it was several decades or even over 100 years old. Zhui Feng did not ask anything and just said, "Yes, this subordinate has offended you." He pulled Chen Ning's right arm and with a tap of his foot, he gently floated into the air, flying across the night sky. Although he was carrying a person, his movements were as graceful as a wild goose as he gently landed on the branch. The branch only slightly sank down before it stopped moving. Xiaoru was stunned seeing this. Her eyes did not even blink as she stared at Zhui Feng with a face filled with envy. This thin bamboo pole could actually fly. And he could fly so beautifully. One day, I must let him take me on a flight too. The position Chen Ning was standing in was diagonally above the hemp-clothed youth's room, facing his window. She smiled and sat down on the stout tree trunk, leaning her back against it. Zhui Feng did not know what she wanted to do, but he was afraid she would fall off the tree, so his eyes did not leave her for even half a second. Of Feng Ru Chin Feng. Ning's eyes of Rong et of. The Herbal Classic Commentaries contains more than 700 types of medicines, which are divided into 7 categories: jade, plants, insects, beasts, fruits, vegetables, rice, and the famous ones. Among them, the common medicines for dispelling wind are Radix Saposhnikovi, Gentiana japonica, Radix angelici. She raised her voice and recited it in one breath. This time, she was no longer reciting a pharmacopoeia on acupuncture, but a famous pharmacopoeia. Chapter 1089. The candles in the hemp-clothed youth's room were extinguished and the room was quiet. There was only a faint moonlight shining through the window. As a doctor, he naturally knew how to take care of himself. He followed a strict diet, working at sunrise and resting at sunset. Normally, as long as the candles were extinguished, he would quickly fall asleep on the bed. But this night was different from normal. He tossed and turned on the bed, unable to fall asleep no matter what. Chen Ning's voice echoed in his ears. She had used a clear and pleasant voice to recite the contents of the 2 medical books, which flowed through his mind like water. Then what would the contents of the 14 classics be like? Then what would the remaining 11 needles of the Ghost Gate 13 needles be like? No matter how he thought about it, he could only think of these 2 things. How could he still be sleepy? Damn! He shouldn't have been careless and fallen for that girl's trick, making her recite the medical books in front of him. He never would have thought that there would be medical books in this world that he had not read and the contents of the books were this mysterious. Although his medical skills had already reached the pinnacle of perfection, these 2 medical books had the same effect as his method of practicing medicine. He devoted himself to studying medicine tirelessly, especially when he encountered some strange and complicated diseases. He was like a cat that smelled salted fish, his heart itching unbearably. When he found out that there was another sky in this field of medicine, his mood was really indescribable. He really wanted to go all out to exchange for the contents of the 2 medical books, but the girl's slightly curled lips appeared in front of his eyes. That faint smile and that pair of bright eyes, revealing a sly glow like a fox's. He couldn't be fooled. There were gains and losses. That girl had thrown out these 2 tempting bait, wanting to catch a big fish like him. As long as he took the bait, he would never be able to escape from it in this lifetime. From now on, he would never be able to return to his carefree days. The hemp-clothed youth closed his eyes and tried to get rid of all the distracting thoughts. He wanted to fall asleep as soon as possible. As long as he fell asleep, he would not think too much. In a hazy state, he seemed to hear that girl's voice in his ears again. This time, she seemed to be reading from a book about herbs. He unknowingly pricked up his ears and couldn't help trying to catch that sound. This book was a bit interesting. He had just heard a bit of it, but before he had time to savor it, he heard her voice suddenly stop. In the darkness, the hemp-clothed youth suddenly opened his eyes. He stared at the curtains on the top of the bed and began to pant. He could hear that the girl's voice was really coming from outside the window. It wasn't a dream. Damn, what did this girl want to do? She wasn't sleeping in the middle of the night and had come to disturb his dreams. Anger rose in his chest, his right hand pressed against the side of the bed, his slender fingers tightly grasping the mechanism button. No, her voice came from outside the window. As long as she did not enter the hut, no matter how powerful his traps were, they would not be able to harm her. The young man in linen could only suppress his anger and shut his eyes tightly. He turned his body inwards, intending to turn a deaf ear to what she was saying. No matter what she was saying, he was deaf and could not hear it. But then, her voice that was as clear as flowing water once again rang out like a nightmare. Chapter 1090. Peaceful Divine Beneficent Prescriptions. There are over 10,000 prescriptions recorded from the ancient times. It can be used to treat the 5 viscera diseases, typhoid, seasonal diseases, fever diseases, internal and external diseases, bone injuries, metal injuries, women's and children's diseases. It also includes pills, wine, food, tonics, acupuncture, etc. This time Chen Ning had chosen to memorize a large ancient prescription book. This strange book had an unsurpassable height in the history of Chinese medicine and was a must-read textbook for studying Chinese medicine. The medical prescriptions and pharmacopoeia recorded in this book could be said to be broad and profound, drawing on the strong points of various schools, including all the folk prescriptions and ancient prescriptions. There were also prescriptions for some difficult and complicated diseases. Although it was unique, it still had miraculous effects. When the linen-clothed youth heard her recite over 20 ancient prescriptions, he couldn't help sitting up. He focused on listening, afraid that he would miss a single word. Although he had heard of some ancient prescriptions before, they were far from being as concise as his medical prescriptions. However, there were even more strange prescriptions that he had never heard of before, not to mention prescriptions for treating diseases. His palms began to sweat and his heart began to pound with excitement. What kind of strange book is this? There is actually such a strange book in this world. There are over 10,000 ancient prescriptions recorded in it. God, I've never even seen this kind of strange book before. If I can read all the ancient prescriptions in this book, I would be willing to pay any price. The linen-clothed youth's heart was filled with excitement as he tightly clenched his fists. He concentrated on listening, and the more he listened, the brighter his eyes became. Wonderful. Wonderful prescription. You can actually use medicine like this. Why didn't I think of this before? Not bad, not bad. If I were to write a prescription for this disease, I wouldn't be able to reduce it. And this prescription is a bit strange. As he listened to the exciting part, the clear and melodious recitation outside the window once again stopped. Pooh! The linen-clothed youth almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He knew it would be like this. For a moment, he really wanted to climb out the window and strangle the girl. He silently swallowed the blood back into his stomach. He picked up 2 pieces of cotton from the pillow and stuffed them into his ears. Then he laid back down on the bed and closed his eyes. Chen Ning was very confident that the linen-clothed youth would not be able to hold himself back. However, after waiting for a while in the tree, she still did not see the linen-clothed youth appear. She listened carefully. The room was very quiet and she could faintly hear the snoring of the linen-clothed youth. Impossible. In her expectations, the linen-clothed youth would not be able to resist this kind of temptation. Could it be that he was not even interested in this strange ancient prescription? Chen Ning felt this was incredible. She began to ponder. Maybe it was because the young man in linen was proficient in acupuncture, so he was not interested in herbal medicine and classical prescriptions. Alright, since that was the case, she would start with books on acupuncture. The strange thing was that even after she recited the contents of the silk scroll and the canon of internal medicine, there was still no sound of the boy getting up from the hut. On the contrary, his snoring became even louder. Chen Ning did not believe that the linen-clothed youth would not care about what she was reciting, and she did not believe that he would be able to sleep peacefully. Chapter 1091. She had clearly grasped his weakness. It was impossible for her to have made a mistake. Then what was the reason? Chen Ning knit her brows and thought for a bit. She suddenly patted her head and suddenly realized something. This linen-clothed brat, he was quite smart. Did he think he would be fine just by plugging his ears? Keep dreaming. Shui Feng, do you know how to use sound transmission? She turned around and looked at Shui Feng. I do. Shui Feng replied without any hesitation. Very good. Next I'll say a sentence and you'll say a sentence after me. Then you'll use sound transmission to send your words into that linen-clothed brat's ears. She said with a smile. Shui Feng was stunned. All right. Crisp honey wine, to treat the cold lungs, wind injuries, hoarse voice, wheezing, coughing. Every time she recited a sentence, Wind-Chasing Wolf would recite a sentence using the secret voice-sending technique and recited the prescriptions in the 1,000 gold prescriptions meticulously. The linen-clothed youth suddenly had a thought in his sleep. He felt a nightmarish voice ring in his ears again. Only this voice was not that clear as a pearl-like young girl's voice, but rather a deep and steady man's voice. He was using a dry voice to read the prescription. What was going on? Didn't he clearly use cotton to plug his ears? Why was this voice like a demon's voice, constantly drilling into his ears? The linen-clothed youth's brows tightly knit together. He looked into his ears and found that the cotton was plugged in, but it still could not stop the voice from entering his ears. Ephedra soup, to treat wind poison, weak legs, numbness, and numbness in the forelegs. Recipe: 1 tael of ephedra, 20 large dates, 3 taels of poria, 30 almonds, 1 tael of parsnip, 1 prescription after another drilled into his ears, making him restless and restless. He angrily pulled out the cotton and threw it on the ground. The voice was still calmly reading the prescription. Angelica soup, 4 taels of angelica, 2 taels each of angelica, 2 taels of peony, licorice, soybean, aconite. The linen-clothed youth's ears were stunned. Aconite. The angelica soup actually had aconite in it. This aconite was clearly poisonous. He did not dare use it easily. His thoughts were taken away by Shui Feng's calm voice and he unknowingly fell into a trance. All right, Shui Feng, there's no need to recite anymore. Chen Ning recited 30 prescriptions in one breath and felt that it was enough. All right, Shui Feng, you don't need to say it. Shui Feng said it out of habit. After saying it, he reacted and his expressionless face turned red. It was a good thing that his face was hidden in the darkness and Chen Ning could not see it. Chen Ning almost couldn't help laughing out loud. In the thatched hut, the face of the hemp-clothed youth instantly flushed red when he heard the last sentence. He was so angry. He clenched his fists and slammed them on the bed. He lost. He gave up. He knew that if he didn't agree to this young lady's request, sooner or later he would be tortured to insanity by this crafty and eccentric young lady. Did this girl know this? How did she know so many strange prescriptions and medical books? How much more did she remember in her mind? The linen-clothed youth was filled with curiosity towards Chen Ning. Miss, please come in and talk. He took a deep breath and put on his clothes. getting off the bed. He sat in his special chair and gently pulled the arm of the chair. He heard the clattering sound of the fire knife and flint. Chapter 1092. Shui Feng, send me down. Chen Ning's smile turned into crescents. Hearing the linen-clothed youth's invitation, she knew that she had won. Shui Feng nodded and grabbed her arm. With a gentle jump, they landed on the ground without making a single sound. They only heard the bamboo door make a zhiya sound as it opened inwards. Inside the room, the linen-clothed youth had a calm expression as he stared at Chen Ning without blinking. His expression was not good. Chen Ning did not mind, she knew that he was angry. No matter who it was, if she used this method to disturb them, they would be angry. Not to mention the fact that this linen-clothed youth did not have a good temper. Miss Chen, you have to be careful. Shui Feng said in a low voice. He saw the linen-clothed youth's unkind expression and his heart became vigilant. Although the other side did not know martial arts, he could feel that the grass hut the other side lived in was not as simple as it looked. There was a hidden killing intent inside. Although his voice was low, the linen-clothed youth still heard it. Humph, what is she being careful about? Does she need to be careful about anything? The one who should be careful is me. The linen-clothed youth gave a cold snort and said in an angry voice. Shui Feng, wait for me outside. There's no need to worry. Since Mr. Godly Doctor is willing to see me, he does not have any ill intentions towards me. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and walked into the grass hut. As soon as she stepped through the door, the two bamboo doors slammed shut behind her. Shui Feng's pupils couldn't help shrinking. Your surname is Chen. The linen-clothed youth coldly looked at Chen Ning. She gave a faint smile and nodded. My surname is Chen and my name is Ning. The linen-clothed youth was a bit surprised and said in a cold voice, Who asked for your name? What does your name have to do with me? He knit his brows. Why was it that this girl's words and actions were so unexpected? Although he had studied medicine since he was young and had been immersed in medical books all day, he knew that the name of a girl in the boudoir could not be casually told to others, especially to a stranger. Normally when the husband's family asked for their name, the girl's name would be told. She actually told him her name as soon as she opened her mouth. What did this mean? She wouldn't like him, right? Could it be that she wanted to marry him? Once this thought entered his mind, he could not get rid of it. In an instant, all the things that he couldn't understand and couldn't figure out suddenly became clear. It seemed like this was the only reason that made sense. Otherwise, why would she keep pestering him the moment she entered the valley? Otherwise, why did she memorize so many medical books and pharmacopoeias when she clearly didn't know any medical skills? Otherwise, why would she stay outside his window in the middle of the night and recite medical prescriptions? That was it, she wanted to take him as her. She wanted to marry him. The linen-clothed youth's face instantly turned red. He coldly looked at Chen Ning and a cold glow appeared in his eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, You're dreaming. Don't think about it. Impossible. Did she think that just because she told him her name, he would definitely marry her? He would rather marry a sow than marry this woman who was even more cunning than a fox. How could Chen Ning know that he would think of this? She was stunned by his series of rejections. Mr. Godly Doctor, are you sure you want to reject me? She had clearly moved him. Why did his attitude suddenly change after just one sentence? Chapter 1093. Mr. Godly Doctor, are you really not going to reconsider? Chen Ning took a deep breath and looked at him in disbelief. I'm not reconsidering. The linen-clothed youth said in a hateful voice. Since it's like this, then I might as well tell Mr. Godly Doctor that I am a person who will not give up until I reach my goal. If you don't agree, then I will continue to bother Mr. I'm afraid that Mr. Godly Doctor will not be able to sleep well for the next few days. Chen Ning was not angry. She revealed a faint smile and waved her long sleeves. Then she turned around and slowly walked out the door. She would not give up so easily. The revolution has not been won yet, so comrade, keep working hard. The linen-clothed youth looked at her back and his head suddenly swelled up. His ears seemed to hear her nightmarish voice. If he let her continue to memorize prescriptions night after night, he would not be able to live a peaceful life in the future. Not only would he not be able to live a peaceful life, he would be better off dead. You! Stop right there. The linen-clothed youth saw Chen Ning walk in front of the bamboo door and reach out to open it. He couldn't help being flustered and finally couldn't help calling out to her. Mr. Godly Doctor, have you changed your mind? Chen Ning turned around and gave him a faint smile. The linen-clothed youth stared at her without blinking as he panted heavily. His eyes went from her head to her feet, not missing a single place. Although Chen Ning did not know what he was looking at, she still stood there and let his eyes wander over her body. She couldn't help muttering in her heart. Did this linen-clothed brat want to treat her illness? Why was he looking at her like this? The linen-clothed youth looked at her with a very critical gaze. He had to admit that even if it was him, he could not find any flaws in this girl's appearance. She was like an orchid in an empty valley, blooming brilliantly. It seemed like she was a good match for him. Forget it, forget it. Seeing her sincerity towards him and the fact that she had memorized prescriptions for him, he would reluctantly marry her. It wasn't a big deal. No matter what, the one who would benefit would be him. If she was not pleasing to the eye, he would just write a divorce letter and divorce her. Humph, wanting to use this kind of method to force him to marry her, how could it be that easy? The linen-clothed youth made up his mind and his eyes fell back onto Chen Ning's face. He raised his chin and revealed a proud expression. Tell me, what do you like about me? Although he did not like the girl in front of him, there was still a hint of pride in his heart. After all, for such an outstanding lady to come all the way to the Miracle Physician Valley and put in so much effort to marry him, it was something to be proud of. If those 3 disciples knew about this, they would be so envious that their jaws would drop. What do I like about you? Chen Ning was stunned. Even though she was smart, she did not understand the meaning behind his words. But then she understood and smiled. I've long heard that Mr. Godly Doctor's medical skills are divine, but seeing is believing. I've seen Mr. Godly Doctor with my own eyes. You are indeed worthy of the title of the world's #1 Godly Doctor. It's because of this that I came all the way here. Yi to say, King to be Mo to be Igu. King I to Mo. Chapter 1094. The linen-clothed youth's heart was in a bad mood and he revealed it on his face. Chen Ning smiled and said, of course not, it's just a trivial title, it's just an empty title. What I like is Mr. Godly Doctor, it's not a title. Even if you didn't have this title, I would still like Mr. Godly Doctor. Hearing this, the linen-clothed youth's lips curled up and he couldn't help revealing a faint smile on his depressed face. This girl's words really made him feel better. She actually said that she would like him. He was proud and proud. Looking at her, Chen Ning was becoming more and more pleasing to the eye. However, although he had already decided to marry her, he could not let her arrogance suppress him like this. It had to be known that the husband was the wife, he had to clearly explain this to her first. Don't let her think that by forcing him to marry her, she would be able to do whatever she wanted. The faint smile on the linen-clothed youth's face disappeared in a flash. Then he put on a serious face and said, since you have such sincerity, I won't reject you. I can promise you, but you have to follow the rules. Can you do that? When Chen Ning heard that he had agreed, she was filled with joy. A smile bloomed on her face like a flower, brightening up the dark cottage. I can do it. Whatever Mr. Godly Doctor wants me to do, I can do it. I definitely won't go against Mr. Godly Doctor's orders. She smiled and nodded, her heart filled with hope. She had finally succeeded. As long as she could invite the Godly Doctor back, Chu Xiaobai could be saved. Her excited eyes filled with tears that shined even brighter than the stars in the sky. When the linen-clothed youth saw her happy appearance, he couldn't help rolling his eyes and giving a snort. He had agreed to marry her and she was already this happy. Just how much did this girl hate marrying him? Wait a minute. This girl wouldn't have some sort of hidden illness, right? Otherwise, with her character and appearance, there would be many princes and grandsons who would be willing to kneel under her skirt and let her choose from them. Why did she have to marry a poor doctor who only had 3 thatched cottages? But even if she had a hidden illness, he was not afraid. With his medical skills, what kind of illness could he not cure? When the linen-clothed youth saw the spring flower-like smile on her face, his mood unknowingly became better. He tried to keep a straight face and not let himself reveal a smile. Don't be too happy yet. I want you to promise me that after we get married, you will listen to me. If I say 1, you cannot say 2. If I say left, you cannot say right. If I say left, you cannot say right. If I tell you to cook, you cannot go into the study. Can you do this? He said in a relaxed voice. He was a man and a man's words were absolute. He was confident that she would agree. After marriage, Chen Ning was stunned again. She suspected that she had heard wrong. Get married? Who get married? No matter how smart she was, she couldn't figure out the meaning behind the words of the young man in linen robes. If he wanted to get married, he would be married, she would become his wife. He wanted to get married, but he wanted her to listen to his orders. He wanted her to go to the kitchen, but she couldn't enter the study. Chen. The youth in linen clothes glared at her. She really looked like she was pretending to be ignorant. Chapter 1095. Get married to him. Chen Ning was completely stunned. Her face revealed a shocked expression as she stared at the hemp-clothed youth. After a while, she realized that the hemp-clothed youth had misunderstood her. God, what was he thinking? Did he think that she had come all the way to the Miracle Physician Valley just to marry him? This misunderstanding was too big. Chen Ning curled her lips. She wanted to laugh more and more. She didn't seem to have any intentions of marrying him, right? Which eye of his saw that she wanted to marry him? But she didn't dare laugh and could only endure it. She couldn't let the Godly Doctor get angry. Cough cough, Mr. Godly Doctor. She cleared her throat and awkwardly shifted her gaze away from his face to look at the flickering oil lamp. I came to Godly Doctor Valley this time to ask Mr. Godly Doctor to come out of seclusion and help me save a person's life. His illness is very serious and he is already on the verge of death. In this world, I believe that only Mr. Godly Doctor can bring him back to life and save his life. Cool. This time it was the hemp-clothed youth's turn to choke on his own saliva. He held onto the chair and bent down. He coughed until tears came out and his pale white face was completely red. He didn't raise his head for a long time. This was because his face was as hot as fire, hot enough to cook a piece of flatbread on it. He didn't want to raise his head at all. He just wanted the ground to crack open so that he could crawl into it. Bastard! Damn it! Where did this brat come from? She was simply sent by the heavens to torture him. The hemp-clothed youth was embarrassed and angry, but he was too embarrassed to do anything. Because he had made such a big mistake. If word of this got out and his 3 disciples found out, where would he put his face as a master? After a while, He finally calmed himself down and slowly raised his head. He returned to his usual cold face. "So you're saying that you're here to ask me to do a house call?" The hemp-clothed youth said in a calm voice, but there was a slight tremble in his voice. He still hadn't completely recovered from the embarrassment he felt just now. "Yes, Mr. Godly Doctor. As long as Mr. Godly Doctor is willing to come back to the capital city with me, I am willing to write down the 14 classics, Hell's 13 Needles, Peaceful Sage Favor, and 1,000 gold prescriptions." Chen Ning looked at him with a sincere expression. The hemp-clothed youth didn't seem moved as he softly said, "Do you know my 3 no-treatment rules? The person you want to ask me to treat, is he one of the 3 no-treatment rules?" Chen Ning was silent for a bit. Then she took a deep breath and replied, "Yes, his identity is illustrious and he knows martial arts. According to the Godly Doctor's rules, you will not save him." Mr. Godly Doctor said. "Mr. Godly Doctor, I know that this matter is difficult for Miracle Dr. Chang, but this person is very important to me, very very important, so I have to save him at all costs." "Mr. How important?" I asked. There was a sharpness in his tone that even he himself did not notice. Chapter 1096. Not knowing why, when he heard that it wasn't her sweetheart, the linen-clothed youth's heart relaxed and his tense face slightly relaxed. "So you use this kind of method to invite me to cure your illness? In this world, is there a way to invite someone like you? How could you be so sure that I would agree?" His tone was not good as he stared at Chen Ning in a mocking manner. Chen Ning gave an embarrassed smile. She looked at the linen-clothed youth with a serious expression. "Mr. Godly Doctor, I know I'm being reckless, but other than this method, I have no other choice. If I have offended you, I am willing to apologize to you. As long as you agree to save someone, I will give you whatever medical books you want without any hesitation." Could it be that Mr. Godly Doctor is not interested in those medical books? Not interested? He was very interested. If it wasn't for the medical books and prescriptions in her head, he would have thrown her out of the valley already. How could he allow her to continue talking in front of him? The linen-clothed youth looked up and began to silently think. Chen Ning did not say anything to disturb him and just quietly waited for his decision. "Tell me first, who is the person you want me to save?" He suddenly turned around and faced Chen Ning. His eyes lit up as he looked at her. "It's King Jing'an, Chu Xiaobai. Mr. Godly Doctor has seen him before. He once knelt in front of your door for 7 days and 7 nights, asking for a prescription for the Empress Dowager." Chen Ning looked into his eyes as she replied. The linen-clothed youth could see that she was not lying. Her eyes were as clear as spring water. "So it's him." Of course he remembered King Jing'an, Chu Xiaobai. An outstanding youth like Chu Xiaobai, no matter who saw him, they would never forget him. Although the linen-clothed youth thought highly of himself, when he thought of Chu Xiaobai's appearance, he could not help but sigh. He did not have any friendship with Chu Xiaobai, but the other side had helped him complete a wish and he had given Chu Xiaobai a prescription to cure the Empress Dowager, so it was not an exception. "Mr. Godly Doctor, if you're worried that I'll go back on my word, I'm willing to write down these books right now." Chen Ning saw his hesitation and knew that she had to strike while the iron was hot. The linen-clothed youth's heart skipped a beat. It could not be denied that he had a strong desire for those medical books, but he hated this girl for seeing through his weakness. She was like an experienced cart driver, dangling a carrot in front of a donkey's nose. The donkey wanted to eat the carrot, so it would keep walking forward. Of course, he was that stupid donkey. Humph, no need. The linen-clothed youth's expression turned cold. He suddenly turned around and turned his back to Chen Ning. She was stunned. Could it be that he still wouldn't agree? "You go out first. I have something to tell the disciples." Wait for me at the entrance of the valley tomorrow morning, he said calmly. Chen Ning was filled with joy. The stone hanging in her chest finally fell to the ground. Thank you, Mr. Godly Doctor. Although she knew that the youth couldn't see her, she couldn't help but bow to him. You don't have to thank me so quickly. Although I promised you, I can't guarantee that I will be able to save him. Whether he lives or dies depends on his luck, the youth in linen clothes said calmly. Chen Ning did not say anything else and quietly left the room. Chapter 1097. Zhui Feng never would have dreamed that this godly doctor who was colder than a stone in a latrine pit would actually agree. They had only been in the godly physician valley for less than a day and they had already invited this famous godly doctor. If he did not hear it with his own ears, he would not have believed it. Miss Chen, you are too strong. This is too good. As long as the godly doctor is willing to help, King Jing'an can be saved. When Zhui Feng saw Chen Ning come out, he excitedly went forward to greet her. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile, but her expression was not as relaxed as Zhui Feng thought. Inviting the godly doctor was only the first step, but they had already left the capital city for several days and it would take several more days to get back. Who knew if Xiao Bai's condition had changed in the past few days? If he couldn't hold on until she returned. She suddenly gave a cold shiver. Zhui Feng, go wake Xiao Ru and then bring the carriage to the entrance of the valley. We'll leave tomorrow morning. She looked around and saw Xiao Ru leaning against a tree. Her mouth was slightly open as she slept soundly. Yes, Miss Chen. Zhui Feng's eyes flashed with a look of joy. He flew over and grabbed Xiao Ru. His figure flew forward and disappeared into the night like an eagle. The linen-clothed youth shook the bell and woke up the 3 sleeping disciples. He told them that he was going to leave the valley with Chen Ning to save someone in the capital city. Hearing this, the 3 disciples' jaws dropped, unable to close. They had followed the linen-clothed youth in the godly physician valley for many years, but this was the first time they had seen their master leave the valley to treat a patient. Moreover, he was going to the faraway capital city. Didn't master hate the capital the most in his life? Didn't he never visit anyone's home to treat a patient? Did the sun rise from the west today? The 3 disciples shook their sleepy heads and looked out the window. They found that the moon was setting in the west and there was a faint glow coming from the east. It seemed like the sun was going to rise from the east. After I leave, you have to properly guard the valley. Bai Yun, you're responsible for taking care of the medicine garden. You can't let the herbs this master has carefully planted wither. If this master comes back and finds any withered herbs, the first person this master will not forgive will be you. The linen-clothed youth looked at the young Bai Yun with a serious expression. Yes, master. This disciple will definitely listen to master's instructions and take good care of the herbs. I will definitely take good care of them. When master comes back, master, you must come back soon. This disciple will miss master. Bai Yun was filled with respect and fear towards the linen-clothed youth, but he was also a bit reluctant. Well, I'll come back after I'm done with my business. I'll be back in at least 10 days or at most a month. The youth in linen clothes looked at Qing Feng and Mingyu again. Qing Feng, Mingyue, the 2 of you entered earlier than me. My medical skills are at least 30% proficient. During this period of time when I'm not in the valley, the 2 of you will be in charge of treating the patients. Remember, you can't be impatient when checking the pulse, and you can't use medicine easily. If you can't diagnose the illness, ask the other party to find another expert. You can't treat the patient recklessly, lest you ruin the reputation of the miracle physician valley. Yes, master. Qing Feng and Mingyu bowed and answered at the same time. They were both surprised and delighted. Over the years, they had followed the linen-clothed youth and had indeed learned many medical skills. However, they had seen more than they had treated. Chapter 1098. Even though the linen-clothed youth had given the two of them many chances, their hearts were still filled with fear. Especially when it came to difficult illnesses, the two of them did not dare to casually diagnose it. Now that they heard that their master was leaving the valley, the heavy responsibility of saving people fell onto their shoulders. They had no choice but to take on this responsibility. If there's an illness that is difficult to understand, you can flip through this acupuncture roasted armor and This book records everything that I've learned in my lifetime. You must study it as much as you can. I hope that when I return, I can see that your medical skills have improved greatly. If I return and find that your medical skills are still stagnant, then don't blame me for being merciless. The linen-clothed youth's face suddenly sunk as he spoke in a sharp voice. This disciple does not dare. This disciple will devote himself to studying medicine and will not disappoint your teachings. The three disciples knelt down together. The linen-clothed youth nodded his head in satisfaction. The morning light shined and the sky in the east had just broken. There was a faint white mist in the Godly Doctor Valley. The entire valley was covered in mist and the mountain was covered in green grass, making it look like a fairyland. Chen Ning stood at the entrance of the valley as she stared in the direction of the grass hut. The dew had wet her shoes, socks, and hair, but she did not care at all. Finally, the white mist slowly parted and a figure sitting in a chair slowly appeared in her line of sight. The linen-clothed youth was still sitting in his specially made chair. The morning wind lifted the hem of his linen robe, causing it to flutter in the wind. Behind him were three disciples. Mingyu was holding a green bag in her hand, which was probably the luggage the linen-clothed youth had prepared. The three disciples brought the linen-clothed youth to the entrance of the valley. Zhui Feng looked at the chair the linen-clothed youth was sitting in and couldn't help being stunned. This godly doctor had been sitting in the chair the whole time. Was he a cripple? Mr. Godly Doctor, do you want to take this chair with you? He was afraid of offending the linen-clothed youth, so he asked this very carefully. Of course. Do you not welcome my chair? The linen-clothed youth raised his brows. No, I don't dare, this one doesn't dare. Mr. Godly Doctor is joking. Zhui Feng was shocked. He did not dare ask anything else. With a gentle push of his hands, he sent the young Godly Doctor and the chair onto the carriage. Moreover, he landed firmly on the carriage without the slightest tremble. This skill was extremely hard to come by. Those who knew the ropes would uncontrollably cheer if they saw it. Chen Ning and Xiao Ru did not feel anything. The linen-clothed youth was still as cold as usual, so there was nothing strange on his face. But when his three disciples saw this, they all stared at Zhui Feng in shock. This guy looked as thin as a bamboo pole, but he had a lot of strength. Others might not know, but the three of them knew very well that their master's chair didn't look special, but it was extremely heavy. Even if the three of them worked together, they wouldn't be able to move it. However, this skinny bamboo pole youth seemed to effortlessly carry the chair onto the carriage. Was he the legendary Herculean Bull Demon King? Oh, right, this move of his is called Kung Fu. This thin bamboo pole is a martial arts master. The three disciples looked at Zhui Feng from the corner of their eyes, laughing coldly in their hearts. They couldn't help revealing looks of schadenfreude on their faces. Master hates people who know martial arts the most. Skinny bamboo pole, I'm afraid you will suffer a lot along the way. Chapter 1099. Zhui Feng suddenly felt a cold wind above his head. Looking up, he saw a group of crows cawing as they flew over his head. Qing Feng smiled at Zhui Feng. He took the bag from Mingyu's hands and walked in front of Joy Fong. This big brother, you're called Joy Fong, right? I'm called Qing Fong. Our names are very similar, it sounds like we're fellow disciples. He said with a smile. Joy Fong thought in his heart, that's right, it really was a coincidence. He did not like talking in front of strangers, so he just nodded his head. Big brother Joy Fong, your martial arts just now were very good, this little brother can't even compare. On the road, with big brother Joy Fong protecting my master, this little brother will be a lot more assured. Joy Fong gave an sound. My master has never left the godly Dr. Valley before. On this trip, this little brother cannot stay by my master's side, so this little brother can only ask big brother Joy Fong to take care of my master. Qing Fong said with a sincere face. Joy Fong thought in his heart, of course. Being able to invite the godly doctor back to the capital, I will treat him like a bodhisattva, not even a single hair will be missing from him. Good, he answered without hesitation. This is my master's bag, I ask big brother Joy Fong to take it. It's been hard on big brother Joy Fong. Qing Fong handed the bag over to him and gave him a grateful smile. He did not know why, but Joy Fong felt that this disciple called Qingfeng's smile was strange and had a sinister taste to it. He thought in his heart that it was just taking care of a cripple, how hard was it? It's not hard. He took the bag and put it on his back. Only later did he realize that he was gravely mistaken. The linen-clothed youth looked at him and softly said, You're called Joy Fong. Yes, Mr. Godly Doctor. Joy Fong respectfully replied. His mind trembled and his eyes lit up. This was the #1 godly doctor in the world. He actually knew his name and took the initiative to talk to him, which made him feel a bit pleased with himself. I'm used to being taken care of, but these 3 disciples will be staying in the valley. So, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you with my matters. The linen-clothed youth's words stunned Joy Fong. No trouble, no trouble. Mr. Godly Doctor, just tell me what to do. Very good. Then you will be in charge of my food and accommodation along the way. Mr. Godly Doctor, don't worry. Joy Fong will take good care of you. That's good. What are you waiting for? Let's get going. The hemp-clothed youth pressed on the armrest and the chair nimbly slid into the carriage. Xiao Ru looked at this mysterious chair and her mouth opened wide in curiosity. Mr. Godly Doctor, why are there 2 wheels on your chair? As a child, she couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. She didn't notice the cold expression on the young man's face. The hemp-clothed youth ignored him. His right hand pressed somewhere, and with a soft sound, the chair began to change. Xiao Ru's eyes almost popped out. She watched as the ordinary-looking chair turned into a bed in front of her eyes. The hemp-clothed youth lay flat on the chair that had turned into a bed and closed his eyes. Is this a magic trick? Eldest young miss, quickly tell this servant, is this servant's eyes playing tricks on me? Xiao Ru rubbed her eyes with a look of disbelief. Chapter 1100. This was simply a transformer. Chen Ning gave a heartfelt sigh. She had seen many high-tech products from the modern era. She had seen some special wheelchairs before, but she never would have thought that she would see this kind of high-tech product in the ancient era. Moreover, this chair could be extended and retracted, looking even more flexible than a modern wheelchair. She really wanted to ask the linen-clothed youth, did he design and make this mysterious chair himself? The person who was able to design and make such a chair was definitely a master craftsman of a generation. Perhaps even the most famous Master Liu Ban would have to bow down to him. Her eyes fell onto the linen-clothed youth's face and found that the other side had his eyes closed. His expression was cold and he had an unapproachable look on his face. She knew that she shouldn't provoke him right now. Sure. She placed her finger on her lips and made a silent gesture to Xiao Ru. Then she gently sat down and took out a pen and paper. She began to quietly write. Because the carriage was very bumpy on the way here, Xiao Ru's butt hurt so much that she couldn't sit down, so she could only lie down. Chen Ning thought of a method and added a shock absorber to the four wheels of the carriage. This shock absorber used the modern spring principle. In this era, there was no such thing as a spring, but there was iron wire and a martial arts expert like Zhui Feng. She told Zhui Feng how to bend the iron wire into the shape of a spring, creating the first shock absorber of this era. Although this shock absorber was very simple and looked very strange, if it was seen by a modern person, they would laugh their teeth off. But it did have a shock absorber function. Zhui Feng did not believe that such a small and strange-looking thing would have such a big effect. Under Chen Ning's guidance, he made 3 more shock absorbers and installed them on the wheels of the carriage. What was the effect? Even he himself was greatly shocked. Right now, he could drive the carriage as fast as he could, but the jolting of the carriage was much smoother and more comfortable than when he was moving slowly. The people sitting in the carriage naturally suffered a lot less. The linen-clothed youth closed his eyes. He did not want to talk to this strange girl and he did not want to see her face that was even more proud than a fox, so he closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. Who would have thought that the carriage would shake as it moved? Not only did it not feel bumpy, it actually felt like he was in a cradle. Adding in the fact that he had not slept last night because of Chen Ning, he had unknowingly fallen asleep in the speeding carriage and even began to slightly snore. Xiao Ru sat on a small stool next to Chen Ning. Holding her chin, she would peek at him from time to time. She was simply too curious about him. Especially after personally witnessing his miraculous medical skills, she had a huge shock. This linen-clothed youth's image in her eyes was incomparably tall, just like an immortal from the heavens. It made her want to get close, but also didn't dare to. Oh, in particular, this immortal was so good-looking. Even the way he slept was exactly the same as the immortals in the paintings. She could not help but feel. Chen Ning did not care about what Xiao Ru was thinking. She was completely focused on memorizing the 14 classics exertion and the Ghost Gate's 13 needles. She knew that the reason why this linen-clothed youth agreed to her request was because of the medical books she had memorized. Chapter 1102. These 4 shock absorbers were things that he had personally made under Chen Ning's guidance. The effects were very good and he simply couldn't bear to part with them. Seeing his own product turn into this, he was filled with pain and sadness. Chen Ning also gave a slight sigh. Because the ancient materials were limited, she could only make a simple leaf spring shock absorber. Although the effects were not bad, the weakness was that it was not strong enough. After a long time, the spring would become bent. If it happened in a fast-moving carriage, it could lead to a car accident. Just like their previous situation, the 3 of them were only lightly injured. This could be considered a blessing in a misfortune. This was also thanks to Zhui Feng's driving skills, otherwise if the carriage went out of control, the consequences would be unimaginable. Take off the shock absorber, it seems like my improvements have failed. Chen Ning rubbed Xiao Ru's hair and said with a faint smile, Xiao Ru, in the following days, I'm afraid your butt will have to suffer again. Xiao Ru said with a lingering fear, this servant would rather suffer on my butt than experience that kind of shock again. Young miss, you're already injured. Zhui Feng, it's all your fault. You can't even control a carriage, what else can you do? She saw the bruise on Chen Ning's head and the swollen skin on the back of her hand. Her heart ached so much that tears almost fell down. Young miss, you must be in a lot of pain, right? How about we slow down a bit? Since the godly doctor is here. No, saving a person is like fighting a fire. Xiao Bai's life is in danger, we can't delay it at all. Xiao Ru, endure it for a few more days. When we return to the capital city, you can have a good rest. Shui Feng, continue on your way. Mr. Godly Doctor, are you injured? That's right, your leg is not convenient. Shui Feng, quickly help Mr. Godly Doctor sit on the couch. The linen-clothed youth slowly sat up. His hands were also covered in ink. Looking at his black palms, he tightly knit his brows and revealed a look of disgust. Shui Feng took a step forward and prepared to help him onto the couch. The linen-clothed youth waved his sleeve and shook off his hand. He said in a cold voice, I don't need your help, I'm not a cripple. He straightened his back and stood up. He was tall and slender, actually being around the same height as Shui Feng. Chen Ning, Xiao Ru, and Shui Feng were all stunned as they stared at him. The linen-clothed youth lightly looked over them and coldly said, You think I'm a cripple, so you look down on me, right? No, of course not. Xiao Ru quickly shook her head and said with a curious expression, Xiao Ru Ming, Xiao Ru, Xiao Ru Xiao Qi. I've never seen you walk before, so I always thought that your legs weren't good. I even felt sorry for you. She said straightforwardly. Xiao Chen Ning and Ning Shui Feng did not say it, but they say it. The hemp-clothed youth rolled his eyes. I like to sit in the chair. I don't like to walk. Why do you care? Xiao Ru stuck out her tongue and giggled as she said, I know, it's because Mr. Godly Doctor is lazy and doesn't want to walk, right? Chapter 1103. I'm very sorry, Mr. Godly Doctor, it was because my shock absorber wasn't good enough, causing everyone to be alarmed. Let's continue on our way, but the carriage will be very bumpy. I hope Mr. Godly Doctor doesn't mind. Chen Ning said to the linen-clothed youth in an embarrassed voice. Shock absorber. The linen-clothed youth's eyes fell onto the two curved springs in Shui Feng's hands and he revealed an interested expression. Is it this thing? Let me see it. Shui Feng gave the shock absorber to him. The linen-clothed youth took it and looked at it a few times. The interest in his eyes became stronger. How do you use this thing? Put it on the wheels of the carriage. Yes. The idea isn't bad, but the workmanship is too poor, it's simply unsightly. Did you make this? The linen-clothed youth revealed a look of disdain. Shui Feng's face turned red and he said in a low voice, It was Miss Chen who taught me to make it. It was my first time making it, so I was a bit clumsy. This shock absorber was your idea? The linen-clothed youth looked up at Chen Ning with eyes filled with surprise. Chen Ning said with a smile, Yes, I've let Mr. Godly Doctor see a joke. Compared to Mr. Godly Doctor's mechanical skills, my little trick pales in comparison. Humph, you do have some self-awareness, but you're still considered smart. I can improve this shock absorber a bit. Shui Feng, do you have any more of these wires? The linen-clothed youth said. Yes, there are still several dozen left over from last time. Shui Feng went out to bring back several dozen wires and then said in a worried voice, Mr. Godly Doctor, this wire might be too soft and the shock absorber won't be strong enough. If something like that happens again, Shui Feng is worried. The linen-clothed youth coldly said, What are you worried about? Do you think what I make will be the same as your incomprehensible things? Humph. His words were filled with arrogance. Shui Feng did not dare say anything else. Where's my bag? Shui Feng immediately took off the bag on his back and respectfully handed it over to him. The linen-clothed youth did not take it. Take out my tools. Shui Feng was a bit stunned. He opened the bag and found that there were several smaller bags inside. That black one. The linen-clothed youth said. Shui Feng opened the black bag and found a bag of strange-looking tools inside. There were scissors that didn't look like scissors, hammers that didn't look like hammers, saws that didn't look like saws. He didn't recognize a single one of them. The linen-clothed youth did not care about him. He took the tools and began to work. The linen-clothed youth did not care about him. He took the tools and began to work. His slender fingers skillfully picked up those strange-looking tools, bending and twisting them against the iron wire, and hammering them. Even Chen Ning could not take her eyes off him. Even Chen Ning couldn't take her eyes off him. She realized that although this young man was an ancient person, he had an innate understanding of physics. He was able to apply many of the principles of mechanics perfectly, and these tools were also very useful in assisting him. Chen was not like her, came from the same. She could not. Could it? Doctor. This was because she realized that although the hemp-clothed youth was nimble with his hands, it was obvious that this was the first time he was trying to make such a shock absorber. If he really came from the modern era, he definitely wouldn't be like this, stopping and thinking before continuing. Chapter 1104. Surname Chen Girl, what do you think of this? The linen-clothed youth proudly gave the shock absorber to Chen Ning. He slightly raised his chin and revealed a proud look in his eyes. Chen Ning took it and looked over it. It was indeed more perfect than Shui Feng's, but it was not the best effect. Because Shui Feng's skill was not enough, she taught him how to make a simple shock absorber. But after seeing this linen-clothed youth's skill, she suddenly had an idea. With the linen-clothed youth's skillful hands, if she told him the detailed design and theory, perhaps he would be able to make a real leaf spring shock absorber. What, do you think I'm not good enough? The linen-clothed youth looked at her and said in an unconvinced voice. Chen Ning shook her head and said with a serious look, "You've done very well, it's very perfect. But I still have an idea, can you add another spring here?" She took out a pen and paper and drew a sketch on the paper. The linen-clothed youth looked at the paper and pondered it with a frown. While listening to her explanation, he also gave a few suggestions. The two of them whispered and began to discuss it. Xiao Ru and Zhui Feng were confused listening to this. They felt like they were talking about heavenly books, they couldn't understand at all. Zhui Feng looked at the sketch Chen Ning had drawn on the paper and his head instantly became twice as big. His forehead was covered in sweat. He was very proud of the shock absorber he made, but when he saw the linen-clothed youth's and compared it to his, he was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. Truly comparing goods would make one lose face, but comparing people would make one angry. Before he could recover from the shock, he saw the complicated sketches that he couldn't even understand. Only then did he really have to admit defeat. No wonder the emperor always said that there was always someone better and there was always someone better. Chen Ning and the linen-clothed youth discussed it for a while. The linen-clothed youth frowned and thought for a bit before finally nodding. Your idea of a double spring shock absorber is not bad. I'll try it, I should be able to make it. He picked up his tools again and immersed himself in his work. Zhui Feng wanted to ask if he needed help, but when he thought of the incomparably complicated design, he gave up on that idea. The linen-clothed youth busied himself for another incense of time before making another spring shock absorber. Then he connected it to the previous one, turning it into a double spring shock absorber. Chen Girl, what do you think of this? Very good. Chen Ning gave him a thumbs up. Very good. The linen-clothed youth nodded and continued to work. Chen Ning did not rush him because if he could make the perfect shock absorber, then this little bit of time was nothing. Xiao Ru and Zhui Feng held their breaths, not daring to make a sound, afraid of disturbing the hemp-clothed youth. The two of them had been refreshed by the linen-clothed youth again. It turned out that not only did this godly doctor have godly medical skills, but his pair of skillful hands were practically omnipotent. Ning! Chen Ning and King Ning and said, Chen Xiao King Qin, there was actually such a powerful person in this world. When she returned to the capital, she would definitely tell Xiao Si. After Xiao Si heard it, he would definitely be so shocked that his eyeballs would fall out. Chapter 1105. Alright. The linen-clothed youth's hands were becoming more and more skilled, each one faster than the last. The last double spring shock absorber was completed in half a cup of tea's time. 4 shining shock absorbers were placed in front of Zhui Feng and Zhui Feng's chin almost fell off. Take it and try it out. There definitely won't be an accident like before this time. The linen-clothed youth said in a soft voice as he mocked Zhui Feng. Zhui Feng's face turned red and he embarrassedly went to install the shock absorbers. Mr. Godly Doctor, you must be tired. Rest a bit. Chen Ning saw that although the linen-clothed youth had a proud look in his eyes, it was hard to hide the exhaustion on his face. She knew that he had spent quite a bit of effort to make these 4 shock absorbers. He did not know martial arts and did not have Zhui Feng's strength. Although he had tools to help him, making 4 shock absorbers at once was a very tiring matter. The linen-clothed youth was so tired that he did not want to say a single word. He laid down on the couch and fell asleep again, not caring about the effects of Zhui Feng's shock absorbers. This was because he was very confident in his handiwork. The carriage began to move again. Zhui Feng was very careful when he drove the carriage this time, afraid that the shock absorbers would distort again. When the carriage began to move, he was shocked once again. After the 4 shock absorbers were installed, the carriage was as stable as if it was riding on a prairie, not feeling any bumps at all. Compared to the simple shock absorbers he had made, it was like heaven and earth. When the sky turned dark, Zhui Feng drove the carriage into a large town. He went to the best inn in the area and gave the linen-clothed youth the biggest and best room. He was now filled with worship towards the linen-clothed youth. He thought that he would take good care of the godly doctor on the road and let him live comfortably. Who knew that his beautiful wish would be shattered in the next moment? After the linen-clothed youth woke up, he was not even willing to walk. He turned the couch into a wheelchair again and sat in the chair. He had Zhui Feng move him off the carriage with the chair and then send him to the room on the 2nd floor. Zhui Feng was very strong, this bit of weight was nothing to him. He stretched out his arms without a care in the world, holding the wheelchair without swaying at all as he sent the linen-clothed youth to the 2nd floor. The waiter and the guests watching all smacked their lips, secretly praising this skinny youth's strength. After entering the room, the linen-clothed youth ordered the waiter to bring a bath. He wanted to wash away the ink and dirt on his body. The waiter had seen Zhui Feng's strength before and seeing Zhui Feng's face full of respect for the linen-clothed youth, he did not dare neglect and quickly brought the water. Zhui Feng, help me wash my hair. Zhui Feng, help me wash my hair. Zhui Feng, help me wash my feet. The hemp-clothed youth began to order Zhui Feng around and Zhui Feng spun around like a spinning top. He discovered that this Sir Godly Doctor was really lazy. He was so lazy that he just lay in the bathtub. He was too lazy to even move a finger. He was the one who took care of the entire bath process. He looked at the linen-clothed youth lazily lying in the bathtub and wiped the sweat off his forehead. He really wanted to roar out. He looked at the youth lazily lying in the bathtub and wiped the beads of sweat off his forehead. He really wanted to roar. What are you talking about? Chapter 1106. How could he, Zhui Feng, do this kind of lowly service to others? Only then did he understand the meaning of the meaningful smile Qing Feng gave him before they parted. He immediately gnashed his teeth in hatred. Zhui Feng, focus on washing my back. Are you trying to tickle me? The linen-clothed youth's dissatisfied voice rang out. Yes, Mr. Godly Doctor. Shui Feng almost exploded, but thinking that King Jing An's life or death was unknown. All right, he endured, he continued to endure. After he finished bathing the young man in linen clothes with great difficulty, he sat lazily on the chair and ate the delicacies that the waiter had brought over with satisfaction. Shui Feng came out from behind the screen with a wet body. He held the large bathtub and was about to leave when he was stopped by the linen-clothed youth. Shui Feng, you have a lot of strength and your external cultivation is not bad, but how is your internal cultivation? He asked in a serious tone. Shui Feng stood there with the large bathtub filled with water, but his face was not red and he was not out of breath. Hearing this, he proudly raised his chin. I cultivate both internal and external cultivation, so my internal cultivation does not lose to my external cultivation. The linen-clothed youth said in a thoughtful voice, the clothes on your body, can you use your internal strength to dry them? Of course I can. Shui Feng replied without even thinking. He was filled with resentment towards the linen-clothed youth, but at this time, he suddenly felt that this youth was very considerate and cared for him. Seeing that he was wearing wet clothes, he kindly reminded him to dry them. That's great. I'll have to trouble you to wash my clothes and then use your internal strength to dry them. I'll be wearing them tomorrow. The linen-clothed youth revealed a relieved smile. What? Shui Feng almost suspected that he had heard wrong. His mouth opened wide enough to swallow a duck egg. You want me to help you wash your clothes? And dry them? That's right. Is there a problem? The linen-clothed youth picked up a pine flower fish ball and slowly chewed it in his mouth, narrowing his eyes. No problem. Shui Feng gritted his teeth as he replied. He took a deep breath and swallowed back the blood that was surging up his chest. Now he knew that the linen-clothed youth did not care about his wet clothes at all, rather he wanted him to dry them for him. Why did he react now? With a stomach full of resentment, Shui Feng picked up the linen-clothed youth's clothes and shoes. He threw them all into the wooden tub and walked out. Wait a minute. The linen-clothed youth called out to him again. Shui Feng heard the young man's voice and his body was covered in goosebumps. He turned around and looked at the young man. His lips were tightly pursed, and he didn't say a word. He felt that the more he said, the more mistakes he would make. It was safer not to speak. Shui Feng could not help and blurted out, Shui Feng, I'll buy you a few new clothes, will be better than the clothes you're wearing right now. Feng. Shui Feng couldn't help it as he blurted out, Mr. Godly Doctor, I'll go buy you some new clothes, I guarantee that any one of them will be better than what you're wearing right now. He suddenly remembered that any problem that could be solved with money wasn't a problem at all. Once he thought about how he didn't need to wash his clothes, he straightened his back. I'm a wild person living in the mountains, I can't wear the clothes of a rich family. I still like these old linen clothes. That's right, Shui Feng, you have an illustrious status, but I want you to wash these linen clothes that you don't like, I'm really wronging you. How about this, give me the clothes and I'll go back to the Miracle Physician Valley to find my 3 disciples to wash them for me. Chapter 1107. When Shui Feng saw this, his forehead was covered in sweat as he quickly stood in front of the door. How could I look down on Mr. Godly Doctor? What I meant was that Mr. Godly Doctor only has one set of linen clothes and it's not enough to change into, so I wanted to buy a few more clothes for Mr. I really did not look down on Mr. at all. Mister, please don't mention returning to the valley for now. I'll go wash my clothes right now and make sure they're clean, without a single trace of ink left. After he said this, he did not dare stay any longer. He picked up the bathtub and clothes and quickly rushed out the door. He was afraid that if he was half a step late, that linen-clothed youth would think of some tricks to order him around. But washing clothes? He, Shui Feng, had never washed clothes in his life. Even his own dirty shoes, socks, and clothes were all piled up under the bed. It was just too smelly, so he threw them away. He also wanted to find someone to wash his clothes for him. Shui Feng had a stomach full of resentment as he squatted down in the yard. He held a washboard and began to wash his clothes. He was clearly using a lot of strength, but the ink on his clothes was very stubborn, not coming off no matter how he washed it. I like to be clean, I don't like wearing clothes that leave stains. The linen-clothed youth's voice sounded in his ears like a curse. Shui Feng's head began to hurt again. What if he couldn't wash off this damn ink? Shui Feng, what are you doing here? Washing clothes. Young miss, quickly look. This servant has never seen a man wash clothes before. Ha, truly interesting. Suddenly, a clear and playful voice rang out. Shui Feng did not need to turn around to know who the owner of the voice was. Xiao Ru. God, why didn't there be a crack in the ground for him to crawl into? This was too shameful. He was a dignified man and he was the Emperor's most trusted secret guard, but he was actually kneeling in the yard like a washerwoman, washing clothes for someone else. This kind of shameful scene had been seen by that stupid girl Xiao Ru. Wait a minute. Young miss. Could it be that the scene of him washing the godly doctor's clothes had fallen into the Empress' eyes? Shui Feng even had the heart to die thinking about it. His head was buried low, almost going into the wooden tub. He thought in his heart, the Empress can't see me, the Empress can't see me. Shui Feng, why are you washing clothes here? Don't you always throw your clothes under the bed when they smell bad? Xiao Ru walked over with a curious expression. Her large eyes sparkled as she looked at the clothes in his basin. Don't tell me you don't know. Shui Feng's face turned from red to green. How did this little girl know about such a private matter of his? How did you know? He gritted his teeth and glared. Shui Feng's face turned from green to black as he gritted his teeth. Feng Feng's face turned from green to black as he gritted his teeth. The first thing he would do when he returned to the capital was to strangle that blabbermouth Xiao Si. These clothes aren't yours, they belong to the godly doctor. So you were washing the godly doctor's clothes. Xiao Ru shouted again. Hui Feng's this stupid girl, why did she have to be this? Being called this by Xiao Ru, he felt that everyone around him was looking at him strangely. Feng washing clothes? Feng asked. When Shui Feng was about to die from shame, a gentle voice came from above his head. Zat at Feng. Feng of Zhan. Chapter 1108. Shui Feng was so embarrassed that he wanted to bury his head into the pile of dirty clothes in the wooden tub. This subordinate is practicing a kind of martial art. He lowered his head and stuttered. With a poochie sound, Xiao Ru laughed like a pigeon, goo, practicing the divine washing technique. I know this technique and I don't even need to practice it. It will definitely be better and cleaner than you. Shui Feng really wanted to take off his socks and shove them into this stinky girl's mouth. Chen Ning also gave a gentle laugh and continued to say, the ink on the clothes can't be washed off like this. You can go to the medicine store to buy some rushes and bitter almonds and grind them into powder. Sprinkle them on the clothes and gently rub them. Xiao Ru, come back to my room with me. After she said this, she pulled Xiao Ru, who was laughing so hard she couldn't stand up straight. Shui Feng's heart was filled with gratitude. The Empress really cared for her subordinates, how good is that? He almost immediately jumped up like a rabbit. He charged to the medicine store and bought a large amount of rushes and bitter almonds. He wanted to grind these two things into powder. This was easy. He placed the rushes and bitter almonds in his palms and rubbed his palms with his internal energy. Instantly, the rushes and almonds powder fell off, and the powder was even finer than stone. When the people in the yard saw his skill, they were all stunned. No one dared to laugh at him, a grown man, for washing clothes here. It's really easy to use. With a gentle rub, the ink is gone. Shui Fang's eyes opened wide in surprise. He found that the ink that he had spent a long time to wash off had been easily washed away after being touched by the rushes and bitter almonds. Moreover, there was not a single stain left behind. He was pleasantly surprised. He sped up and quickly washed the linen clothes, shoes, and socks. However, when he was washing the socks, his brows furrowed into a frown, and he gritted his teeth in hatred again. This linen-clothed brat, he actually wanted him to wash his smelly socks. Humph, he would endure it for now. Once he cured King Jing An's illness, he would return the humiliation he received today double. He began to imagine the linen-clothed brat squatting in the yard with a large wooden tub in front of him. The tub was filled with a small mountain of dirty clothes, and that's right, there was also the smelly socks. Once he thought of the linen-clothed brat's ugly face, Shui Feng couldn't help feeling happy, as if that scene was right in front of him. Mr. Godly Doctor, your clothes and socks have all been washed and dried. I have washed them very clean, there is not a single trace of ink. Shui Feng pushed open the door again. When he appeared in front of the linen-clothed youth, his expression became filled with respect. The current of the linen-clothed youth was like a foam of a Buddha. You has of you. Shui Feng gritted his teeth again in his stomach. If there's nothing else, I'll be going down first. He looked at the youth in linen clothes resentfully. The foam of but Shui Feng's stomach was still empty. He had been a cart driver for an entire day and had helped this Feng Shui bathe. He had washed his clothes and was as tired as a grandson, not even bothering to drink any water. Chapter 1109. Wait a minute. When Shui Feng was about to leave, the linen-clothed youth called out to him again. What else does Mr. Godly Doctor want? Call that girl's surname Chin over. I have something I want to talk to her about. The linen-clothed youth said. That girl's surname Chin. Shui Feng's lips twitched and he couldn't help clenching his fists as he stared at the linen-clothed youth. Did this linen-clothed brat know that the girl's surname Chin he was talking about was the Empress? He actually dared to use this kind of disdainful tone to call the Empress. He was simply too bold. Why aren't you going? Do you still want to help me wash my clothes? But I don't have any clothes to wash right now. If you haven't washed enough, then take that set of clothes and wash it again. The linen-clothed youth gently said. Once he heard about washing clothes, Shui Feng immediately calmed down and his arrogance disappeared. I'll immediately go find Miss Chin. He listlessly walked out. The linen-clothed youth rolled his eyes at his back. Good martial arts. Humph. He hated people who knew martial arts the most in his life. The higher their martial arts, the more he disliked them. After a while, Chen Ning appeared in front of his door. Mr. Godly Doctor, you were looking for me. She was a little strange. It was already dark, so why was this linen-clothed youth not sleeping and looking for her? It couldn't be that he wanted to find trouble with her like he did with Shui Feng, right? But thinking about it, perhaps he was looking for her medical books. It was a good thing that she had ridden quite a bit on the horse carriage today. The linen-clothed youth's back was facing the door, but when he heard this, he pulled out his hand from the chair. The chair turned in a semicircle and he was now facing her. My surname is Chin. He raised his brows and said in an unfriendly tone. Ze, hearing this tone, it seems like he was not in a good mood. Chen Ning looked at him and walked into the room. With a faint smile, she said, I still haven't asked for Mr.'s name. Why should I tell you? The linen-clothed youth's tone was very aggressive. Chen Ning was not angry and continued to smile as she said, since Mr. is not willing to tell me your name, then I can only continue to call you Mr. Godly Doctor. She then said with a smile, I wonder what Mr. is looking for me for. The linen-clothed youth gave a snort and said, I wonder what Mr. is looking for me for. Chen Ning felt it was a little strange and reached out her left hand. She thought, was he going to check her pulse? The other one. The youth rolled his eyes at her. Was he still using his right hand to take her pulse? Was he using his right hand to take her pulse? The hemp-clothed youth continued, place your hands on the table with the backs of your hands facing upwards. This was even more strange. Chen Ning placed her hand on the table as she stared at the linen-clothed youth. She could not guess what he wanted to do. The hemp-clothed youth turned his chair and walked to the table. He picked up a small medicine box and opened it. Instantly, a refreshing fragrance wafted out. It smelled extremely good. It was a box of light green translucent cream. He used his pinky to pick up a little and spread it on the back of her hand. A cool and refreshing feeling seeped into her skin. Chen Ning finally understood. The reason he called her over was to apply medicine on the back of her hand. Because of the accident that happened during the day, the back of her right hand was hit by an inkstone. It was bruised, and it was so painful that she could barely hold a pen. Chapter 11:10. Chen Ning never thought that this linen-clothed young man would notice her injury and even specially prepare some ointment for her. Mr. Godly Doctor, thank you. Your ointment is really good, it doesn't hurt as much after applying it. Her heart was filled with gratitude as she sincerely said this. Speaking of this, she felt a bit apologetic towards him. After all, the method she used to ask him to treat her was not very honorable, it could even be said to be a bit despicable. But in order to save Xiaobai, even if it was despicable, she would do it without any hesitation. She thought that this linen-clothed young man would hate her to the bone. She never thought that although he looked cold, he would actually be so meticulous, even noticing a small detail like her injury. He had applied ointment for her, but she had been scheming against him. She really shouldn't have done this. Chen Ning decided that after her injury was healed, she would write down all the medical books she had memorized and give them to this linen-clothed young man. Humph, you think this is an ointment for your injury? Keep dreaming. The linen-clothed young man gave a cold snort. He took out a towel and wiped off the light green ointment on the back of her hand. Chen Ning was stunned. What kind of broken thing were you applying? You think that broken thing can cure your injury? The young godly doctor's lips curled into a smile as he spoke in a sarcastic voice. She understood that the linen-clothed young man was referring to the ointment Mo Chuan had prepared for her. She said with a smile, that is the best golden ointment, does Mr. Godly Doctor think it's not good? Humph, you really don't understand medicine, you're simply full of shit. The best golden ointment. That's used to treat bleeding wounds. Your hand was injured and the injury is completely different, how could the ointment be the same? He gave a cold snort. Chen Ning blinked and suddenly realized, I understand, no wonder the injury on my hand is getting worse. It was because I applied the wrong ointment. You're not that stupid. I might as well tell you, if you continue to apply that bullshit golden ointment, the back of your hand will fester and turn into a large sore tomorrow. It's that serious. Her eyes went wide. You think it's not serious? Humph, you think that by hiding the injury on your hand, other people won't see it? I can even smell what kind of ointment you're applying. The youth snorted and opened the other medicine box. This time, it was a box of red ointment. He picked a large piece and applied a thick layer on the back of her hand. Then, he took a white bandage and wrapped it tightly around her hand. I applied the grass ointment before to get rid of the heat in your ointment. This time, I'm applying the peach blossom ointment. It has the effect of clearing the blood. It will take around 24 hours for the swelling to disappear, but in these 24 hours, you can't touch water and you can't move around, do you understand? His technique was naturally extremely skillful and his movements were graceful. Not long after, he had already finished bandaging the wound. Ning Mo Chin was that he had the before. And Ning Vi had Chin had his own. It was just a small injury. Was there a need to make such a big fuss? However, she was still deeply grateful for the young man's good intentions. I don't need you to thank me. I didn't have any good intentions when I healed you. I just want you to recover faster so that you can write out what you owe me. Chapter 11:11. Chen Ning gave a gentle smile and said, "How could I dare forget what I owe Mr. Godly Doctor? I've already written some on the carriage today, so I'll give it to Mr. to look over first." She took out a stack of manuscripts and handed it over to the linen-clothed youth. The linen-clothed youth's eyes lit up and he could not hide the look of interest in them. But he pretended to be indifferent as he received the manuscripts. After glancing over them, he placed them to the side like he was not interested in them at all. "The writing is really ugly," he said in a critical voice. Chen Ning smiled and said, "Yes, as long as Mr. can recognize it, it's fine. There's one more thing." He gave a cough and looked up, looking at Chen Ning with a serious expression. "What is it?" Chen Ning saw his expression and knew that he was talking about a serious matter, so she also became serious. "I think you're pretty smart." The linen-clothed youth paused and looked at her. Chen Ning blinked and did not say anything, waiting for him to continue. She admitted that she was very smart, but this linen-clothed youth would not praise her for no reason. It was like a weasel paying respects to a chicken, he did not have any good intentions. Her heart was secretly on guard. This youth wouldn't be digging a hole for her to jump into, right? Also, you seem to know quite a bit, the linen-clothed youth said. Chen Ning still did not say anything. She did know a lot, otherwise, how could she invite a great bodhisattva like him? You know a bit of medicine, as well as a bunch of random things like shock absorbers. Although they aren't anything good, you being able to think of a way to reduce the shock of the carriage shows that your mind is very flexible. You know how to be flexible and not stick to a single rule. This is also very good and it satisfies me the most. The linen-clothed youth leaned back in his chair and revealed a faint smile on his face. Satisfy him? What did he mean? Chen Ning's heart suddenly jumped up. He wouldn't have fallen for her, right? Hey, girl surnamed Chin, have I said it clearly enough? Do you understand what I mean? The linen-clothed youth waited for a while, but Chen Ning did not say anything, so he couldn't help saying this. Chen Ning stared at him. What did he want her to say? Now that he had taken a liking to her, should she shed tears of gratitude and happily thank him for his favor? I. She bit her lips. She did not know if she should tell him her identity. Since they were in the capital, he would find out sooner or later. What you? Now that there is such a big opportunity in front of you, do you want to say it? There's no harm in telling you that I've taken a fancy to you. Seeing that she was hesitating, the hemp-clothed youth snorted and went straight to the point. Chen Ning felt countless crows fly over her head and each one was letting out a hoarse cry. Chen Ning, I will you. I'm willing to make an exception and accept you as my last disciple. You'll be my successor, said the youth in hemp clothes. Chin, Mr. Godly Doctor, are you saying that you want to take me as your disciple? Chin 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 Su He Ning at chin chin could chin chin king on. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She had no intention of acknowledging him as her master at all. You're not allowed to call me Mr. Godly Doctor in the future. Call me Master. The youth in linen clothes looked impatient, and his tone became even more impatient. Chapter 11-12. The linen-clothed youth saw that she was still standing there without moving. His face sunk and his voice became stern. Chen Ning blinked her eyes. She did admire this linen-clothed youth's medical skills, but that did not mean she liked studying medicine. This. That. She stuttered as she hesitated. This linen-clothed youth was right. This was indeed a heaven-sent opportunity. To be able to become a disciple of a godly doctor, who knew how many people would be envious of her. But she really had not thought about it. Should she walk the path of saving lives in the future? Mr. Godly Doctor, can you give me a few days to think about it? She thought about it. She felt that if she directly rejected this linen-clothed youth, she would anger him. If he was angered and returned to the Godly Doctor Valley, wouldn't all her efforts be wasted? What else is there to think about? The linen-clothed youth was displeased. He had already made an exception for her and she was still trying to reject him. Could it be that she didn't know that becoming his disciple would cause her ancestors' graves to emit green smoke? All right, I'll give you 3 days to think about it. But, you have to remember, I was the one who chose you first. Other than me, you are not allowed to take anyone else as your master, unless you don't study medicine for the rest of your life. You can leave now. The linen-clothed youth's tone was overbearing. It was like he was a completely different person from his previous cold expression. Chen Ning felt this was funny, but she did not dare laugh. She could only purse her lips. Mr. Godly Doctor, then you should rest well. We still have to continue tomorrow morning. She said. Gu Qingze. He suddenly said. She was a bit stunned. My name. The linen-clothed youth said. His hand pressed down on the armrest and the chair turned around, facing his back to her. In the future, I don't want to hear those words come out of your mouth. Either you call me by my name, or you call me Master. I understand, Mr. Gu. She revealed a faint smile. She left the room and closed the door for him. On the way back to her room, she had a strange smile on her lips the entire time. She could not think of anything even if she broke her head. This linen-clothed youth actually liked her and wanted to take her as his disciple? He even told her his name. He really did not treat her as an outsider. Then should she learn medicine from him? She knew nothing about medicine. Could she really save the dying and heal the injured? Could she really cure the common people? The next day, as soon as the sun rose, the 4 of them set off again. When Xiao Ru saw Zhui Feng, she couldn't help being shocked. His eyes were bloodshot, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked listless. Zhui Feng, what happened to your eyes? Are you sick? Why do you look so pale? Do you want to ask the Godly Doctor to take a look at you? She kindly asked. Zhui Feng shook his head weakly. As soon as he heard the words Mr. Godly Doctor, his face looked as if he had seen a ghost. He quickly jumped onto the carriage and waved his whip. Go! He did not even look at Xiao Ru and did not even say a word to her. He looked at Xiao. She angrily climbed into the carriage and swore to herself that if she took the initiative to speak to Zhui Feng again, then she would be a tortoise's son. Zhui Feng did not want to ignore Xiao Ru, rather he was too embarrassed to tell her. Chapter 11-14. Chen Ning said in a soft voice as she pinched Xiao Ru's nose. Xiaoru thought about it and it really was reasonable. She smiled at Qin Ning, revealing a row of snow-white teeth. But Zhui Feng, who was outside the carriage, felt his chest tighten. He had a stomach full of anger from the hemp-clothed youth, and now an arrogant and willful unfamiliar girl had come to give him anger. He was the respected emperor's secret guard. Even in the royal palace, no one dared to give him anger. Who was this strange girl? She even wanted to surpass the carriage that the Empress sat in. Zhui Feng gave a cold snort. The other side's carriage was decorated magnificently, and the 4 horses pulling it were all fine horses. They were all snow-white, without a single blemish. The carriage was beautiful and the horses pulling it were also beautiful. But what use was beauty? There were many beautiful things in this world. Like that divine doctor, he looked like a dog, but he didn't do anything. Zhui Feng was filled with anger as he stared at the beautiful carriage in front of him. It was like he was staring at the hemp-clothed youth as he whipped the horses. Go! If we can't catch up to the carriage in front of us, Father will slaughter you for meat tonight, he said to the 2 horses in a sharp voice. It was unknown if the 2 horses understood his words, but they charged forward. In the blink of an eye, they had passed the beautiful carriage in front of them. The unruly girl in the carriage poked her head out again, staring at Zhui Feng's back. Driver, that stinky country bumpkin has passed us again. Quickly pass him. Pass him. Yes, master. The driver broke out in a cold sweat, but he did not dare disobey. He used all of his strength to drive the 4 horses quickly, gradually catching up. They were almost on par with Zhui Feng's carriage. Although the road was wide enough for 2 carriages to travel side by side, the beautiful carriage was wide and large. It charged forward, not caring about the people on the road at all. When the people and carriages on the road saw the aggressive carriage, they all moved to the side. But the carriage was too fast. There were still 2 or 3 carriages that could not dodge in time and were knocked to the side by the beautiful carriage. Seeing this scene, Zhui Feng's eyes couldn't help filling with anger. What kind of person was sitting in this carriage? He was actually this arrogant. He had knocked into other people's carriages and did not even stop, just to pass his own carriage. At this time, another carriage came in front of him. In order to not hurt the innocent, he reined in his horse and slowed down, letting the carriage in front of him pass. The beautiful carriage overtook him again, and passed by his own carriage. Stinky country bumpkin, dare to pass this girl's carriage again, I will break your dog legs. When the 2 carriages were side by side, the young girl opened the curtain and raised her head. She didn't even look at Zhui Feng as she coldly said this sentence like a proud peacock. Zhui Feng was a mud man, so he had a country bumpkin. Moreover, he had a belly full of anger because of that sackcloth youth. He had nowhere to vent it, but this girl just had to add fuel to the fire. He had a temper like a candle to begin with. He didn't want to argue with this girl anymore, but her words immediately angered him. Sure, break my legs if you can, Zhui Feng coldly replied. He took a breath and raised the horse whip again. The 2 horses that were driving the carriage looked ordinary, but they were both fine horses that he had carefully selected. In addition, the 4 wheels of the carriage were equipped with shock absorbers, so it ran fast and steadily. Chapter 11:15. Zhui Feng steadily controlled the direction of the carriage, always maintaining a certain distance from the beautiful carriage. If the carriage went left, he would go right. If the carriage went right, he would go right. Like this, even if the carriage driver did his best, he would not be able to surpass his carriage. The young girl's face turned livid with anger. She took the whip from the driver's hand and began to whip the horses, but you beasts quickly chase after this miss. Driver, why are you so useless? You can't even catch a carriage with 2 horses. What use is there for this miss to keep you? Angered, she brandished her horsewhip and lashed out at the coachman without rhyme or reason. Master, their carriage is very good, it runs fast and stable. This servant really can't catch up. The driver held his head and argued in a small voice. He was a knowledgeable person and had already found that Shui Feng's carriage was not normal. When it ran, it did not shake at all. The young girl did not listen, but she became even more angry. Are you blind? Is his carriage better than this miscarriage? Open your dog eyes and look carefully. That broken thing, how could it compare to this miscarriage? She gave a few more whips. The driver endured the pain and said, Master, please calm your anger, this servant is telling the truth. Look at that carriage running, it's fast and stable, it doesn't shake at all. If our carriage goes any faster, it will fall apart. Master, you also can't stand this kind of shaking, right? The young girl was stunned. She had almost vomited from the shaking, but she wanted to overtake Shui Feng's carriage, so she forcefully endured it. You dog servant, it's clearly you who are useless. You can't even keep up with a broken carriage, this miss will beat you to death. She saw that her carriage was being pulled further and further away by Shui Feng's carriage. She became even more angry and used even more strength, whipping the driver until blood came out. The driver could only hold his head as he was being beaten, not daring to make a sound. Xiaoru opened the window and seeing this scene, she couldn't help shouting, You're really unreasonable. It's just overtaking your carriage, it's not a big deal. Why are you hitting people like this? The driver is not an animal. The young girl stared at her and scolded, Who do you think you are, daring to meddle in this miss matters? Stinky country bumpkin, cheap girl. If you meddle in other people's business, then this miss will also hit you. She raised her whip and slashed it at Xiaoru's face. This whip was fast and fierce, Xiaoru did not have time to dodge it. She screamed and closed her eyes, but who would have thought that the pain she was expecting did not come? Chen Ning raised her hand and blocked in front of her. With a schwa sound, the whip heavily landed on the back of her hand. She had used her injured right hand, which had been wrapped in thick bandages by the hemp-clothed youth, Gu Qingze. Therefore, this whip had only caused her a burst of pain, but she had not been injured. Then she stretched out her left hand and grabbed the whip, forcefully pulling it. The girl was not on guard and the whip flew out of her hand, falling into Chen Ning's hand. Xiao family you! Give me back my whip. The girl never thought that Chen Ning would be this bold. She was angry and annoyed as she screamed out. Chen Ning felt a burning pain on the back of her hand. She looked down and saw that the whip had broken several layers of bandages with a lot of force. Chapter 11:16. Chen Ning looked up and stared right at the young girl. Her eyes were filled with anger. It was rare for her to be angry, but she couldn't help wanting to teach this unruly girl a lesson at this time. Miss, you really have a big temper, hitting people for no reason. My maid did not offend you, but you want to ruin her face as soon as you make a move. Isn't this going too far? Although her heart was filled with anger, her voice was still very calm. The young girl did not even look at her. She raised her nose and disdainfully said, So what if I ruin her face? This miss has money. How much money did you spend on this maid? This miss will pay you double the price. Xiaoru's face turned red as she shouted, Who cares about your stinky money? You've injured my family's young miss, quickly apologize to my family's young miss. She found that Chen Ning had blocked the whip for her at the critical moment and her heart was filled with gratitude. Seeing the wound on the back of Chen Ning's hand, her heart ached so much that tears began to fall. Hearing the young girl's arrogant and uncaring words, she was so angry that her chest was about to explode. Who does your family's young miss think she is? Does she want this miss to apologize to her? Ha, ha, what a joke. Look at your shabby appearance, I don't know which hole you country bumpkins came from. You've blocked my carriage, so I want you to kowtow to me as an apology. The young girl placed her hands on her hips and spoke in a very arrogant manner. With this incident, the carriages from both sides stopped and Joe Fong came over from his driver's seat. When he saw the wound on Chen Ning's hand, his face turned white. Damn it, how could he only focus on driving the carriage and let the Empress suffer a whip from that young girl? If the Emperor found out, it would be hard for him to escape punishment. He coldly looked at the young girl. He saw that the other side was wearing luxurious clothes and had an extraordinary aura. She was only 16 or 17 years old, but she had a look of disdain on her face. Not to mention her appearance, just her arrogant and unruly appearance alone was enough to make people feel disgusted. Kowtow to apologize. Very good, you should immediately kowtow to my master as an apology. Joe Fong said in a cold voice. What? What did you stinky country bumpkin say? The luxurious-clothed young girl thought she had heard wrong. She placed her hands on her hips and loudly said, I want you to kowtow to this miss, otherwise today's matter will not end. Joe Fong gave a cold laugh. When he was about to speak, Chen Ning raised her hand and stopped him. Oh, miss, what do you want to do? Joe Fong said in a low voice. This miss is interested in your broken carriage. How much is it? I'll buy it for you. The well-dressed girl gave a snort, but she still did not look at Chen Ning. She looked at Joe Fong from the corner of her eyes. Seeing that he was dressed like a coachman, she thought that his master wouldn't be any better. Hearing this, Joe Fong and Xiao Ru laughed in anger. Joe Fong. Put away your stinky money, you think you're amazing just because you have money. Xiao Ru angrily glared at the well-dressed girl. Chen Ning was also surprised. She never thought that this girl would want to buy her carriage. Chen at. Ning was at. Chen. At. In terms of comfort, it couldn't compare to the beautiful carriage the young girl was riding in. Chapter 11-17. That linen-clothed youth wanted to massage his legs, drink water, go to the toilet, drink water, and go to the toilet again. He was ordering him around. Although Joe Fong had a brain, he could feel that this linen-clothed youth was purposely tormenting him. But no matter how he racked his brains, he couldn't figure out how he had offended this godly doctor. Could it be because he had silently criticized him in the godly Dr. Valley and he had heard it? But that was impossible. He was just thinking in his head. This godly doctor was not an immortal, how could he know what he was thinking? Joe Fong was puzzled. But he did not dare offend this linen-clothed youth no matter what. No matter how the other ordered him around, he could only endure and become steel. After the linen-clothed youth Gu Qingze entered the carriage, he began to sleep. That even and clear snoring sound entered Joe Feng's ears, making Joe Feng's teeth itch with hatred. He had tormented him for an entire night and he had fallen into the carriage to sleep, sleeping this soundly. But he had to painstakingly act as a horse driver for him. This was not fair. Joe Feng's resentment soared into the sky. He could only vent all of his anger on the two horses pulling the carriage, driving the carriage as if it was flying. Humph, it's best if it bumps you until you spit out blood. I'll let you have a good sleep. He wanted to vent out his anger. It was a pity things didn't go as he wished. The 4 shock absorbers he had personally installed were too good. Although the carriage was moving fast, the carriage did not shake at all. The linen-clothed youth's snoring became even louder. On the spacious official road, Joe Fong drove the carriage, passing carriage after carriage. Only in this way could he slightly vent the anger in his heart. "Hey, driver, how can you drive a carriage? You actually let that broken carriage pass our carriage. Why aren't you catching up for me?" Suddenly, a young girl's voice floated out from a carriage that he had just overtaken. "Yes, master." Following that, the carriage that Shui Feng had left behind began to speed up. The driver whipped the carriage and the 4 horses' hooves flew into the air, passing Shui Feng's carriage. Shui Feng looked over and saw the curtain on the side of the carriage being lifted. A 16 or 17-year-old girl rolled her eyes at him and spat before putting down the curtain. "Stinky country bumpkin, you want to pass this miscarriage? Why don't you look in the mirror? Look at yourself." The young girl's disdainful voice was blown into Shui Feng's ears. Even Xiao Ru in the carriage could hear it. "Eldest miss, did you hear that? How could there be such an unreasonable girl in the world? We only overtook her carriage, what's the big deal? She actually called us country bumpkins." Xiao Ru couldn't help being angry. Although she didn't see the girl's face, she knew how unreasonable she was when she heard her unruly and willful voice. Chen Ning revealed a smile. "Shoo, don't talk, don't be noisy, Mr. Gu is resting." There were many unreasonable people in this world. If she got angry over such a small matter, she wouldn't be able to get over it. Chapter 11-18. Chen Ning could see that this well-dressed girl knew martial arts. Although it wasn't very good, she was still a martial artist. From the way she brandished the horsewhip just now, it could be seen that every lash of the whip landed on the coachman's body. No matter how the coachman tried to dodge, her whip would still land on him accurately and accurately. The leather bag on her waist was bulging, so there must be hidden weapons inside. But she did not care. With Shui Feng here, this girl would not be able to hurt her. At this time, there was the sound of horse hooves as several dozen people came from the road behind them. They were all tall and strong, wearing blue robes. Seeing the well-dressed girl, they immediately jumped off their horses and respectfully greeted her. "Greetings to Master. Has Master encountered any trouble?" These several dozen blue-clothed people immediately formed a circle, surrounding Chen Ning's group along with the carriage. Shui Feng looked over everyone and revealed a faint cold smile. He could see that although the other side had a lot of people, they did not have any martial arts experts, so he did not place them in his eyes. "Humph, you idiots, why are you only here now?" The well-dressed girl raised her nose. Seeing her servants arrive, she became even more arrogant. "This miss will ask you again. Are you selling or not?" Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said, "Miss, my carriage is not for sale. However, if this miss is sincere, I can exchange with you." "Exchange? How do you want to exchange? If you don't want money, then what do you want?" The well-dressed girl knit her brows. "Of course it's an item for an item." Chen Ning said with a smile, "If you buy my carriage, I won't have any other means of transportation. So, miss, if you like my carriage, then you can use your carriage to exchange for mine." "Exchange carriage?" The well-dressed girl looked like she had heard the funniest joke in the world as she gave a laugh. "You want to use your broken carriage to exchange for my carriage? Do you know that this miscarriage is worth 1,000 of your broken carriages?" "Is that so?" "That's good, I don't plan on selling it. Shui Feng, let's continue on our way, we can't waste any more time here." Chen Ning turned around to board the carriage. The well-dressed girl raised her brows and said with a cold smile, "If this miss wants something, then I will definitely obtain it. If you know what's good for you, then give me a price. This miss will not let you suffer a loss, otherwise, humph, humph." "Otherwise what? Are you going to steal it?" Xiao Ru was filled with anger as she stared at her. "Humph. The well-dressed girl did not even look at Xiao Ru. She said to Qin Ning's back, 1,000 silver coins, are you selling it? The coachman and the green-clothed attendants all sucked in a breath of cold air in shock. They thought to themselves that their master was indeed rich and overbearing. He actually asked for 1,000 taels of silver right off the bat. TSK, wouldn't this group of people eagerly sell it? Who would have thought that Qin Ning would not even turn around as she said, not even 1,000, even 10,000. You! The finely dressed girl's face changed color. Biting her lip, she suddenly said, 50,000 taels. Will you sell? The people around them sucked in air until their teeth hurt. The people would that this. That bunch of country bumpkins would go crazy with joy. This was simply like a meat pie falling from the heavens, ruthlessly smashing into their heads. Although the carriage was good, it was not worth 50,000 silvers. Qin Ning finally turned around and gave a faint smile to the well-dressed girl. Sorry, I won't sell, I will only exchange. Chapter 11:19. Hearing this, it was like the well-dressed girl's entourage had been struck by lightning as they were all stunned. Their master had actually used a large amount of money to create a special carriage to exchange for the other side's broken carriage. Was she burning money? Although the well-dressed girl was arrogant, domineering, and unreasonable, she was not a fool who would squander her money recklessly. She knew that Qin Ning's carriage had to have something special about it. Otherwise, the other side's carriage would not be as good as hers and the horses would not be as good as hers, but why would the 4-horse carriages she had carefully created not be able to outrun the other side's broken 2-horse carriage? She wanted to make a name for herself in the capital's race, so the more broken the carriage looked, the better. At that time, she would be able to shock everyone and break everyone's eyes. Qin Ning was also stunned. She never thought that the well-dressed girl would actually agree to the exchange. She rolled her eyes and said with a smile, all right, then we'll write a contract. Neither side can go back on their words. Humph, this girl has never gone back on her words. Let's write a contract. Qin Ning did not say anything else. She returned to the carriage and wrote 2 contracts. Then both sides pressed their fingerprints and kept a copy. The well-dressed girl threw the contract on the ground and gave a snort. Then she arrogantly said, someone, move all of this girl's things onto the carriage. Qin Ning folded the contract and put it into her chest. Xiao Ru, Shui Feng, pack up our things and give this girl a carriage. After she said this, she suddenly remembered that there was still a sleeping Gu Qingze in the carriage. She wanted to wake him up. She saw that Gu Qingze had already come out of the carriage. He lazily said, Shui Feng, did you change the carriage? Move me on to the new carriage. He did not have any objections at all, which was outside of Qin Ning's expectations. Very quickly, both sides' things were in their places. The well-dressed girl sat in the carriage that Qin Ning and the others had been in. Looking around the carriage, she found that other than it being very spacious, there was nothing special about it. Compared to her own carefully built carriage, it could be said that it was inferior in every aspect. She couldn't help muttering in her heart. Could it be that she had made a mistake? She had actually used a priceless carriage to exchange for this broken carriage. The coachman felt even more aggrieved. He brandished his horsewhip and lashed the buttocks of the 2 horses as he yelled. Go! The 2 horses let go of their hooves and began to run. When her green-clothed attendants saw the carriage leaving, they all jumped onto their mounts and chased after it. There was only Qin Ning's group and the beautiful carriage left behind. Young miss, that girl is so hateful. She has beaten and scolded you. So why did you give your carriage to her? Why didn't Shui Feng teach her a lesson? Although they have a lot of people, Shui Feng knows martial arts, so he can definitely beat them. Isn't that right, Zhui Feng? Xiaoru angrily stared in the direction of the carriage. She had a stomach full of anger that she couldn't release. Zhui Feng could not guess Chen Ning's thoughts, so he knit his brows and said, "Yes, Miss Chen. Those people are not this subordinate's match. Just say a word and this subordinate will immediately bring our carriage back." He did not care of the carriage, but because of the carriage. He just the four. Of the carriage, of the four. Chapter 11:20. What made Zhui Feng even angrier was that his master was the Empress. The other side's unruly little girl was being rude to the Empress. She really deserved a beating. Chen Ning's eyes swept over them and she could already see the indignant expressions on their faces. With a faint smile, she said, "Do you think I'm the kind of person who would give the right side of my face to be hit just because someone hit the left side of my face?" Xiaoru and Zhui Feng did not dare say anything, but their hearts were filled with grievance. Some people indeed deserve to be taught a harsh lesson, but it's not as simple as beating her up or scolding her. You all think that I've suffered a loss, but I feel that I've picked up a huge bargain. Chen Ning smiled as she looked at the beautiful carriage. She saw that it was decorated with gold and it was very magnificent. It was even more beautiful than her original carriage. Especially the 4 horses that were pulling the carriage, each one could be considered a fine horse. Ze, who would have thought that the well-dressed girl would change carriages just like that? She was even willing to give up these good horses. She really is stupid. Young miss, without the shock absorbers, this servant's but will suffer again. Xiaoru said with a crying face. Chen Ning smiled and did not say anything. She just looked over at Gu Qingze. Xiaoru suddenly remembered and immediately looked at Gu Qingze in a fawning manner. "Mr. Godly Doctor, can I trouble you to make a few more shock absorbers?" Gu Qingze ignored her and took out the ointment. With a cold expression, he said to Chen Ning, "Stretch out your hand." Chen Ning obediently stretched out her right hand. The bandage on the back of her hand had already been torn apart by the whip and there was a faint whip mark on the back of her hand that was burning with pain. Gu Qingze applied the ointment for her and wrapped her hand up like a dumpling again. He then glared at her. "You did this on purpose, didn't you?" "What on purpose?" Chen Ning blinked, not understanding. "You deliberately injured yourself, adding injuries on top of injuries. That way, you wouldn't have to write the medical book, humph. Dream on. Apply my secret ointment and your injuries will be fine by tomorrow. Also, you were the one who wanted to change the carriage, not me. You want me to make another shock absorber for you? Impossible." Chen Ning smiled and reached out her left hand. Gu Qingze stared at her and said, "What are you doing?" "Shock absorber," she said in a clear voice. "If I say I won't do it, then I won't do it." He rolled his eyes. "I don't want to trouble Mr. Gu to make a new one, I just want to ask Mr. Gu to take off the shock absorber and give it to Zhui Feng to install on this carriage." Gu Qingze stared at Chen Ning. "How do you know I took it off?" Chen Ning shook her head and said with a smile, "I was just guessing. I wanted Zhui Feng to do this, but when I glanced over, I found that the 4 shock absorbers on the carriage had disappeared. If it wasn't taken by Mr. Gu, then who could it be? Mr. Gu Ning helping me like this, I cannot be." Gu Qingze snorted, took out 4 shock absorbers from under his sleeves, and tossed them to Windchaser. "Chen. Xiao. Feng and I Chen. Mr. Godly Doctor, you're amazing." Xiaoru's face was filled with worship. Her eyes were filled with stars as she stared at Gu Qingze without blinking. Zhui Feng was filled with admiration. They finally understood why Chen Ning had agreed to change the car so easily and why she had agreed so easily. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.